In this video, we're explaining all the legendary kings of One Piece. Let's get started. First up, we got Nefertari Cobra, served as the 12th king of the Arabasta Kingdom in the world of One Piece. He was the father of Princess Nefertari Vivi and husband to Queen Nefertari Titi, who passed away years before the main story. Cobra ruled a massive desert nation and belonged to one of the 20 royal families who founded the world government over 800 years ago. His family carried a secret that even he barely understood until near the end of his life. The Nefertari family secretly bore the initial D in their names, passed down from his ancestor Nefertari D. Lili. Cobra stood at average height with a wrinkled face and long, curly black hair that he kept tied back. He wore traditional royal clothing, including a green robe with yellow edges, an orange and beige sash, and a purple coat. A tied-off beard framed his face, giving him a distinguished appearance. As he aged into his final years, much of his hair and beard turned white. He grew a mustache, and his health declined significantly. By the time of his second Levely attendance, Cobra needed a wheelchair to move around and often coughed from his illness. The Nefertari family governed Arabasta for 12 generations, spanning over 8 centuries. They earned a reputation as benevolent rulers throughout this long history. Even Brook, a pirate who lived for decades, never heard stories of misrule in Arabasta during his lifetime. The kingdom prospered under their leadership, and the people loved their royal family. Cobra inherited this legacy of good governance and took his responsibilities seriously. He understood that a country consisted of its people, nothing more and nothing less. This philosophy guided every decision he made as king. Cobra's reign faced its greatest challenge when the Desert Kingdom fell victim to a massive conspiracy. A warlord of the sea named Crocodile secretly created a criminal organization called Baroque Works. Crocodile publicly acted as a hero to Arabasta, driving away pirates and protecting the kingdom. The people celebrated him, and Cobra himself thanked Crocodile multiple times for his apparent help. Behind this heroic facade, Crocodile orchestrated the kingdom's destruction. His true goal was to find Pluton, an ancient weapon rumored to be hidden somewhere in Arabasta. To achieve this, he needed to overthrow the royal family and gain access to their secrets. The conspiracy began with dance powder, a substance that could create artificial rain. In a desert kingdom where water meant life, controlling rainfall meant controlling everything. Baroque Works agents secretly used dance powder to make it rain heavily in the capital city of Alubarna, while other regions suffered endless drought. The citizens noticed that Alubarna received abnormal amounts of rain, while their towns dried up completely. Crocodile also used his devil fruit powers to manipulate the weather. His Suna Suna no Mi allowed him to control sand and absorb moisture, which he used to prevent rain from falling on most of Arabasta. Baroque Works agents then staged an accident in the town of Nanohana. They accidentally spilled a cart full of dance powder in public view. When citizens discovered the powder, the agents claimed they were delivering it to King Cobra. This single staged incident planted the seed of doubt in people's minds. Years of drought, combined with this apparent evidence, made citizens believe their king was stealing rain from them. The rumor spread across the kingdom that Cobra hoarded dance powder in Alubarna to keep the capital prosperous while letting other regions suffer. A young man named Koza, who had been childhood friends with Princess Vivi, led the growing rebellion. 3 years before the main story, Arabasta experienced a devastating drought. The town of Yuba, where Koza lived, suffered terribly. Koza came to the palace and begged Cobra to use dance powder to save his town. Cobra refused this request because using dance powder would take rain from other towns. He explained that he could help Yuba, but it would mean stealing from other regions. Koza left angry and disappointed, vowing to take action himself. He formed the rebel army to fight against what he believed was the king's tyranny. Cobra never used dance powder and genuinely cared for all his people equally. He refused to fight the rebels even as they grew in strength and numbers. When his royal guards urged him to prepare for battle, Cobra said he would fight anyone else but not his own people. He saw the rebels as citizens of Arabasta who deserved his protection, even when they marched against him. This decision showed his character. Many kings would have crushed a rebellion without hesitation, but Cobra understood that killing his own people would destroy the very thing he was trying to protect. Princess Vivi discovered the truth about Baroque works and infiltrated the organization with her advisor Igaram. They worked undercover for 2 years, trying to learn the identity of the organization's leader. When Crocodile discovered their identities, he ordered their execution. Vivi escaped with help from the Straw Hat Pirates, a crew of young pirates led by Monkey D. Luffy. She traveled with them back to Arabasta, racing against time to stop the civil war. Before reaching the capital, Vivi sent her pet duck Karoo ahead with a letter for her father. The letter explained that Crocodile was the true mastermind behind everything. Upon reading his daughter's letter, Cobra immediately changed his strategy. Instead of preparing to defend against the rebel army, he ordered the royal army to march on Rainbase, the city where Crocodile had his base. Cobra decided to face the real enemy rather than fight his own misled citizens. This decision came too late to prevent the war entirely, but it showed that Cobra instantly believed his daughter and acted on her information. He trusted Vivi completely despite the shocking nature of her claims. Crocodile captured Cobra before the king could reach Rainbase. The criminal used his agent, Mr. Tu Bon Kure, who could copy anyone's appearance with his devil fruit power. Mr. Tu transformed into Cobra and appeared in Nanohana, where he publicly confessed to using dance powder. The fake Cobra then ordered the town burned and destroyed. This performance gave the rebels the final proof they thought they needed. The Civil War became inevitable after this incident. Baroque Works agents Mr. Four and Miss Merry Christmas kidnapped the real Cobra and held him prisoner. They brought him to an underground chamber beneath Alubarna called the Tomb of the Kings. This ancient burial place contained a poneglyph, one of the indestructible stone tablets that recorded lost history. Crocodile interrogated Cobra about the location of Pluton, believing the king knew where the ancient weapon was hidden. Cobra truly had no knowledge of Pluton's location. He knew about the poneglyph's existence, but could not read the ancient writing on it. The civil war erupted in Alubarna, with both armies clashing in the streets. Hundreds of thousands of soldiers fought each other, while Vivi desperately tried to stop them. She stood on the clock tower and begged both sides to cease fighting, but her voice could reach anyone over the sounds of battle. The fighting continued as the situation grew more desperate. Crocodile had planted a massive bomb in the clock tower with enough power to destroy everything within 5 kilometers. He planned to eliminate both armies at once and use the chaos to seize power. Deep in the Tomb of the Kings, Cobra witnessed an incredible battle between Luffy and Crocodile. The young pirate challenged the warlord to save Vivi's kingdom. Luffy lost twice against Crocodile's superior powers. The warlord's devil fruit made him nearly invincible in the desert. He could turn into sand, absorb moisture with a touch, and create devastating sandstorms. Luffy kept getting back up despite his injuries. The third battle pushed both fighters to their absolute limits. Cobra watched as this teenager fought a man who should have been far beyond his level. Cobra made a crucial decision during this battle. He prepared to destroy the entire temple by collapsing its support structure. The temple was designed so that removing one pillar would cause all others to fall. Cobra declared that in the name of the 12th king of the Nefertari family, he would never give his kingdom to someone like Crocodile. He was ready to die in the temple collapse and take Crocodile with him. This suicide mission showed how far Cobra was willing to go to protect his kingdom. Crocodile mocked this plan because his devil fruit powers would let him survive the collapse easily, but Cobra was out of options. Luffy defeated Crocodile just before Cobra could execute his desperate plan. The pirates' final attack sent Crocodile flying through the bedrock ceiling and into the sky above Alubarna. The warlord's body crashed down in the middle of the plaza where both armies were fighting. His unconscious form proved to everyone that he had been their true enemy. At the same moment, rain began falling for the first time in years. Crocodile's defeat ended the effect of his devil fruit. The blessed rain washed over the battlefield, and both armies stopped fighting to look at the sky in wonder. A young boy named Kappa, who had witnessed Mr. Two transforming between different forms, came forward and explained the truth. He told everyone that Baroque works had manipulated them all, and that the king was innocent. The revelation, combined with the rain and Crocodile's defeat, finally ended the civil war. Koza rushed to the royal army and begged them to stand down. The rebels and the loyalists both realized they had been tricked into fighting each other. Cobra emerged from the underground temple, badly injured but alive. In a moment that showed his true character, Cobra bowed deeply to thank Luffy and his crew. His advisor, Igaram, protested that a king should never bow to commoners. Cobra responded with words that revealed his philosophy. He said that authority was something worn over clothes like a garment. In the bath, where everyone was naked, there was no king. As a father and as a person living on the same land, he wanted to thank them from the bottom of his heart. The Nefertari family sheltered the Straw Hat Pirates in the palace while they recovered. Cobra provided them with food, medicine, and a safe place to rest, despite knowing they were wanted criminals. The Marines were already on their way to Arabasta and would arrive soon. The Straw Hats needed to leave before Captain Smoker could arrest them. Vivi faced a difficult choice during these final days. Luffy invited her to join his crew as a pirate. She wanted to sail with her friends but felt responsible for helping rebuild Arabasta. Cobra supported whatever decision she made, showing the same trust he always had in his daughter. Vivi chose to stay in Arabasta. The Straw Hat Pirates left without her, but they shared a silent goodbye on the beach. They raised their arms to show the X marks painted on their forearms, a secret symbol that Vivi alone would recognize. She raised her arm in return, showing her own X mark. This gesture meant they would always be friends, even if they went separate ways. Cobra watched his daughter say goodbye to the people who had become so important to her. He understood that she had grown during her journey, and that she carried those friendships in her heart. The world government officially credited Captain Smoker and his assistant Tashigi with defeating Baroque works. This decision was made to prevent the truth from spreading that pirates had saved an entire kingdom. Cobra accepted this false narrative because he understood the political realities. What mattered was that his kingdom was safe and his people were alive. Crocodile was stripped of his title as a warlord and sent to Impel Down, the world's highest security prison. The other Baroque Works agents were also arrested, ending the organization forever. Years passed and Arabasta recovered from the civil war. Crops grew again with the return of normal rainfall. Towns were rebuilt and the people prospered once more. Cobra's health began declining during this peaceful period. An illness took hold that gradually weakened him. Despite his deteriorating condition, Cobra had questions that needed answers. He had learned things during the Civil War that troubled him deeply. Meeting Nico Robin, the archaeologist who could read poneglyphs, made him curious about his family's hidden history. He wanted to know more about his ancestor, Nefertari D. Lili, and why her story disappeared from official records. When the Levely approached, Cobra decided to attend despite his poor health. The Levely was a grand conference where 50 kings and queens from around the world gathered at Mary Jiwas to discuss global matters. It happened only once every 4 years. Cobra had attended a previous Levely 6 years before the main story began. During that gathering, he had reprimanded King Wapol of Drum Kingdom for dismissing discussions about the Revolutionary Army as irrelevant. Cobra understood that global stability affected everyone, and that no kingdom existed in isolation. At the latest Levely, Cobra played a major role in a historic vote. He and King Riku Doldo III of Dressrosa proposed abolishing the 7 warlords of the sea system. Cobra argued that this system was fundamentally flawed based on his experience. Crocodile had used his position as a warlord to nearly destroy Arabasta. The government-sanctioned pirates were supposed to balance power between nations, pirates, and the world government. In reality, the warlords often abused their privileges and caused suffering. Cobra's testimony about what Crocodile had done carried significant weight. The assembled rulers voted to abolish the warlord system entirely, ending an institution that had existed for decades. Cobra also requested a private audience with the 5 elders, the 5 highest-ranking officials in the world government. He wanted to ask them about Nefertari D. Lili and what happened to her 800 years ago. The official story said that Lili chose not to become a world noble like the other first 20 families. She supposedly intended to return to Arabasta, but never arrived and vanished from history. Cobra found this story incomplete and suspicious. He also possessed a letter that Lili had written, which had been passed down through generations. The letter contained information about the initial D, but Cobra barely understood its significance. The 5 elders agreed to meet Cobra, but they requested he come alone. Cobra accepted this condition and went to the throne room without his guards, Chaka and Pel. He met the 5 elders in front of the empty throne, a symbolic seat that was supposed to remain empty forever. The empty throne represented equality among the world government's founding families. The promise was that no single person would rule above all others. Cobra asked his questions about Lili and about the meaning of the D initial. The 5 elders became increasingly uncomfortable with these inquiries. Then something happened that was never supposed to occur. A figure emerged from the shadows and sat on the empty throne right in front of Cobra and the 5 elders. This person was Imu, the true ruler of the world whose existence was kept secret from everyone. The 5 elders, despite being the publicly acknowledged highest authorities, bowed before Imu. Cobra realized immediately that he was witnessing the greatest secret of the world government. The empty throne was claimed despite all the promises of equality. One person controlled everything from the shadows. Imu spoke to Cobra and revealed terrible truths. They explained that D represented the name of the world government's enemy. They said that Nefertari D. Lili had been responsible for releasing the poneglyphs into the world, spreading dangerous knowledge that the government wanted hidden. Imu asked Cobra for Lili's full name. Cobra understood that he was going to die regardless of how he answered. The 5 elders would never let him leave after witnessing Imu's existence. He revealed that his ancestor's full name was Nefertari D. Lili, confirming that his family carried the D initial. Imu transformed into a monstrous creature and stabbed Cobra with an arrow-like appendage that emerged from their body. Cobra fell mortally wounded from this attack. Sabo, the chief of staff of the Revolutionary Army, had been hiding nearby and witnessed everything. He rushed to help Cobra and attacked Imu and the 5 elders. All 5 elders transformed into massive, shadowy creatures and chased after Sabo. Cobra, dying from his wound, told Sabo a final message. He asked Sabo to tell Luffy and Vivi that the Nefertari family carried the name D and that this was important information they needed to know. Cobra sacrificed himself to give Sabo time to escape. The young revolutionary carried the king's final words and ran from the transformed monsters. The 5 elders managed to stop and kill Cobra before he could escape, but Sabo got away with the dangerous knowledge of Imu's existence. The world government immediately moved to cover up what had happened. They blamed Sabo for Cobra's death, claiming that the revolutionary had assassinated the king during the Levely. This false story spread across the world through official news channels. The truth about Cobra's murder remained hidden from almost everyone. Vivi, who was at the Levely with her father, became a target after his death. CP-0 agents, the government's strongest intelligence operatives, attempted to kidnap her on Imu's orders. She escaped with unexpected help from King Wapol, who had witnessed part of the events through a peephole. Wapol fled Mary-Geoz in terror, and Vivi escaped with him. She ended up at the offices of the World Economy newspaper, where she remained in hiding. The world believed she was missing and feared dead. News of Cobra's death shocked the entire world. The Straw Hat Pirates mourned him deeply when they learned what had supposedly happened. Chopper and Usopp cried at the thought of the kind king being murdered. They remembered how Cobra had thanked them personally and treated them with respect despite being wanted criminals. Luffy refused to believe that Sabo had killed Cobra. He knew his brother would never do such a thing. The crew understood that something terrible had happened, but they had no way to learn the truth. Cobra's death became a catalyst for major changes in the world. The Revolutionary Army, despite Sabo's denial of involvement, used the king's assassination as fuel for their cause. 8 nations rose up in revolution, partly motivated by anger over Cobra's murder and the world government's apparent failure to protect a beloved king. People across the world mourned the loss of a ruler who had been known as benevolent and wise. His reputation survived the false accusations against him because so many people knew his character. The legacy Cobra left behind was complex and far-reaching. He raised a daughter who valued duty and friendship equally. Vivi learned from her father that a country was made of people, nothing more. She understood that authority meant responsibility rather than privilege. Cobra's choices during the Civil War showed that a good leader would rather die than harm their own people. His decision to believe Vivi's letter without hesitation demonstrated the trust between father and daughter. Cobra also left behind answers to dangerous questions. His revelation about the Nefertari family carrying the D initial opened new mysteries about the world's hidden history. His questions about Lili and the poneglyphs showed that even after 800 years, the truth about the Void Century remained important. The fact that Imu personally killed him proved that these questions threatened the world government's power. Cobra died seeking knowledge that could change everything, and his final words to Sabo ensured that this knowledge would survive him. Arabasta continued without its king. Vivi would eventually become the 13th ruler of the kingdom when she could safely return. The people remembered Cobra as the king who chose peace over war and truth over convenient lies. His refusal to use dance powder, even to save specific towns, showed his commitment to fairness. His willingness to bow before commoners who saved his kingdom showed his humility. His decision to confront Crocodile alone showed his courage. Every aspect of his character reflected the benevolent rule his family had maintained for 12 generations. Nefertari Cobra's story intertwined with the larger mysteries of the One Piece world. His family's connection to the first 20, the poneglyphs, and the D initial placed him at the center of secrets that had been hidden for centuries. His death marked him as someone who got too close to the truth. The world government killed him specifically to silence his questions, making him a martyr for hidden knowledge. The fact that they framed someone else for his murder, in the end, Cobra died as he lived, thinking of others before himself. His last moments were spent helping Sabo escape rather than trying to save his own life. He ensured his final message would reach his daughter and Luffy, the people he trusted to carry forward the fight for truth. His death was not in vain because the secrets he uncovered survived to threaten the world government's foundation. The King of Alabasta became a symbol of resistance against tyranny, remembered by friends and enemies alike as a man who chose honor over survival. Before we move on, make sure to subscribe if you're enjoying this breakdown. Moving on, we have Riku Dold III, King of Dressrosa, restored after Doflamingo's fall, ruled as the King of Dressrosa for many years before losing his throne to a cruel conspiracy. He was the father of 2 daughters, Scarlet and Viola, and the grandfather of Rebecca. His family had governed Dressrosa for over 800 years, taking power after the original royal family left to become world nobles. Riku inherited a legacy of compassion from his ancestors, who had freed an enslaved dwarf tribe centuries earlier. He ruled with kindness and worked constantly to maintain peace throughout his kingdom and beyond. Dressrosa prospered under the Riku family's leadership. The kingdom enjoyed lush vegetation and beautiful flowers thanks to the cultivation skills of the Tontata tribe, tiny dwarves who lived underground on nearby Green Bit Island. These dwarves possessed incredible strength despite their small size and could grow any plant. The first king, Riku, from 800 years ago, had apologized sincerely for how the previous rulers enslaved them. He freed them completely and allowed them to take anything they wanted from the kingdom as compensation. To protect the dwarves from being discovered, King Riku created a legend about fairies who stole things, which the citizens accepted and even celebrated. This arrangement continued through the generations. Riku stood at average height with a strong, muscular build despite his age. He had a wrinkled face with thick eyebrows, a beard, and mustache. A spiky ring of hair went around the back of his head with a single large tuft near his crown. A stitched scar ran from above his left eyebrow to the top of his head, which he received 29 years before the present story. He wore traditional royal clothing, covered by a royal mantle. His physical appearance showed that he maintained his strength even as he aged, remaining capable of fighting when necessary. Riku believed deeply in pacifism and peace. He worked tirelessly to prevent conflicts between neighboring countries and helped nations in need. King Elisabello II of the Provence Kingdom spoke highly of Riku, mentioning that he had helped his country in the past. Other monarchs respected Riku for his fairness and wisdom. Under the Riku dynasty, Dressrosa had enjoyed centuries of peace without war, an incredible achievement that made the citizens love their king. They trusted him completely and felt grateful for the stability he provided. 29 years before the main story, Riku heard about a troubled young criminal named Kairos, who had committed murder at age 15. Instead of simply having him executed, Riku personally went to the slums with his soldiers to arrest Kairos. The young killer fought back fiercely and struck Riku in the head with a club, giving him the scar he would carry forever. Riku calmly stopped his soldiers from retaliating. He extended his hand to Kairos and asked him to come along. Riku sensed something good in Kairos beneath the violence and anger. Riku offered Kairos a deal. Rather than imprisonment, Kairos would fight in the Corrida Coliseum as a gladiator. If he won 100 matches, he would earn his freedom. Kairos accepted and entered the arena. He won battles at an astonishing speed, achieving his freedom. When Riku offered it to him, Kairos refused. He felt he was a beast who belonged in a cage and believed people loved him only when he was contained. Riku respected this decision and allowed Kairos to continue fighting. Over the following years, Kairos became a living legend. He achieved 3,000 consecutive victories without a single defeat, an accomplishment never before seen in the Colosseum's history. A massive bronze statue was built in his honor at the arena. However, Kairos felt empty despite his fame. He realized he was only known for killing, not for being a good person. Riku decided to test Kairos himself. Riku entered the Colosseum and challenged Kairos in a match. Kairos recognized the king immediately when he saw him in the arena. This recognition caught Kairos off guard, and Riku managed to land a blow on him, cutting him on the forehead. This was the only time anyone ever wounded Kairos in the arena. After the match ended, Riku revealed why he had fought. He explained that the fact Kairos held back after recognizing him proved he was kind and human, not just a killing beast. Riku appointed Kairos as commander of the Riku Royal Army. The citizens came to respect Kairos for his new role, protecting their kingdom. 1 year later, Kairos saved Princess Scarlet, Riku's eldest daughter, from pirates who had kidnapped her. Scarlet had initially distrusted Kairos because of his murderous past, but after he rescued her, she fell in love with him. They wanted to marry, but Kairos worried that his criminal history would cause scandal for the royal family. Riku approved of their marriage despite potential public opposition. He said that individuals would bless them, but group ethics would not forgive it. Scarlet decided to fake her death from illness, allowing her and Kairos to live quietly in a flower field outside the kingdom. They had a daughter named Rebecca, and Riku often visited them, treasuring his granddaughter. The family lived happily in their hidden home for years. Riku's other daughter, Viola, also visited occasionally, along with other family members. They all treated Kairos somewhat awkwardly, since he believed his touch would somehow taint Rebecca, so he always wore gloves around her. 10 years before the present story, darkness came to Dressrosa. One night, Don Quixote Doflamingo appeared alone in Riku's chambers. Doflamingo was a warlord of the sea whose family had ruled Dressrosa 800 years earlier before leaving to become world nobles. He declared that he had returned to reclaim his rightful place as ruler. Doflamingo made an outrageous demand. He would sell the kingdom back to Riku for 10 billion berries. If Riku paid this sum by dawn, Doflamingo would leave peacefully. If he refused, there would be war. Riku panicked at first but realized paying the ransom was the only way to avoid bloodshed. His pacifist nature made him unwilling to fight a war against anyone, especially a warlord with such fearsome power. Riku accepted the deal. Doflamingo warned him not to tell the citizens why he was collecting money. Riku obeyed and ordered his soldiers to begin gathering the enormous sum from the citizens. People trusted their king so completely that they gave their savings willingly, even though they had no idea why he needed the money. What Riku did not know was that Doflamingo had no intention of keeping his word. The ransom was just part of an elaborate trap. Doflamingo possessed the Ito Ito no Mi devil fruit, which allowed him to create and control razor-sharp strings. One of his techniques was called parasite, which let him attach invisible strings to people's bodies and control them like puppets. As the citizens handed over their money, Doflamingo activated his power from the shadows. Invisible strings attached themselves to Riku's body, and he suddenly lost control of his movements. Tears streamed down Riku's face as Doflamingo forced him to draw his sword and attack innocent civilians in the town of Sabio. Riku begged and pleaded for someone to kill him as his body moved against his will, cutting down the people he had sworn to protect. His mind remained fully aware while his body committed terrible violence. Citizens screamed in confusion and terror, unable to understand why their beloved king had suddenly gone mad. Doflamingo extended his control to the royal soldiers as well. He made them attack civilians throughout the kingdom, turning protectors into killers. Chaos erupted across Dressrosa as soldiers and their king slaughtered innocent people. The citizens watched in horror as everything they believed about Riku shattered. They called him human trash and a mad tyrant who had been pretending kindness while secretly planning to steal their money and destroy them. Within hours, centuries of trust and love evaporated completely. At the palace, Doflamingo's subordinates took control with help from an inside spy named Monet. They captured Princess Viola as a hostage. Riku's royal guards were blocked from protecting him. With the king discredited and the palace captured, Doflamingo prepared for the final stage of his plan. He appeared publicly with his 3 strongest subordinates, Trebol, Diamante, and Pika. These officers sat beneath Doflamingo, forming a living throne as he addressed the devastated citizens. Doflamingo presented himself as a hero coming to save Dressrosa from its tyrant king. He and his officers defeated Riku and his army in front of everyone. The citizens, desperate for salvation from the nightmare, cheered for Doflamingo. They hailed him as their new king and begged him to save them. That very night, Doflamingo took the throne. He promised wealth and prosperity while secretly planning to use the kingdom for his criminal empire. During the chaos, Kiros rushed to the palace to save Riku. He found himself bound with chains. Kiros cut off his own leg to escape the restraints and attacked Doflamingo. Sugar, a special officer in Doflamingo's crew, intervened. She possessed the Hobi Hobi no Mi, a devil fruit that turned people into living toys. The fruit also erased all memories of the transformed person from everyone who ever knew them. Sugar touched Kairos and transformed him into a one-legged toy soldier. Kairos became her first victim in Dressrosa, but she forgot to place a contract on him. This mistake allowed Kairos to keep his free will, while other toys became slaves. The transformation had devastating effects. Everyone in the world instantly forgot Kairos ever existed. Only his statue remained at the Colosseum, but people could not remember who it represented. Scarlet forgot her husband completely. Rebecca forgot her father. Riku forgot his son-in-law and trusted commander. Kairos, now calling himself Thunder Soldier, rescued Riku and escaped the palace. They ran to the flower field where Scarlet and Rebecca were waiting. On the way, Thunder Soldier encountered armed men, led by Diamante, one of Doflamingo's officers. Diamante shot Scarlet down as she tried to protect Rebecca. Thunder Soldier arrived to find Scarlet dying. He held her as she passed away, but Scarlet had no memory of him. She did not recognize the toy holding her. Her final words were asking the soldier to tell Rebecca about the food she had tried to get for her. Thunder Soldier brought Scarlet's body and the food back to young Rebecca. The little girl cried for her mother, while a stranger toy soldier comforted her. Thunder Soldier swore to protect Rebecca and stay by her side. He could never tell her who he really was because toys who showed their human side were diagnosed with human illness and thrown into the scrap heap. For 10 years, Thunder Soldier raised Rebecca alone while she had no memory of her real father. Doflamingo began using Sugar's power systematically to control Dressrosa. Anyone who opposed him or knew too much was transformed into toys. Sugar placed contracts on most of her victims, forcing them to obey whatever orders Doflamingo's crew gave them. The toys were worked as slaves in underground factories, producing artificial devil fruits called Smile. These operations made Doflamingo rich and powerful. Dressrosa enforced strict laws separating toys and humans. Toys could not enter human houses, and humans could not enter toy houses. This prevented anyone from discovering the truth. Doflamingo also reinstated the ancient practice of enslaving the Tontada dwarves. He captured 500 dwarves, including their princess Mancheri, and forced them to work in the Smile factory. The dwarves were extremely gullible and trusting, making them easy to manipulate. Doflamingo told them lies about restoring their ancient kingdom, and they believed him. The free dwarves formed a resistance army with Thunder Soldier to save their captured friends and overthrow Doflamingo. Riku lived in hiding for 10 years, presumed dead by most people. He watched from the shadows as his kingdom suffered under Doflamingo's rule. His name was cursed throughout Dressrosa. The citizens who once loved him now spoke of him with hatred and shame. Riku carried this burden silently, knowing the truth but unable to prove his innocence. He waited patiently for an opportunity to help his people and restore his family's honor. 10 years after losing his throne, that opportunity arrived. Doflamingo announced a tournament at the Corrida Coliseum with the Mera Mera no Mi as the prize. This powerful devil fruit had once belonged to Portgas D. Ace, who died in the war at Marineford. Doflamingo claimed he would give the fruit to whoever won the tournament. Thousands of competitors entered, drawn by the chance to gain such legendary power. Among them was Riku, disguised as Ricky. Riku wore a dark purple cape and a gold helmet that covered his entire face except his eyes. The helmet featured a prominent nose guard and flame-like designs. He entered Block B of the tournament and fought well, showing he still possessed considerable skill despite his age. During his battle, Blue Gilly managed to crack his helmet with a powerful kick. The crack revealed Riku's thick brown mustache and beard beneath the disguise. Riku was eventually defeated and thrown into the underground dungeon with other losing fighters. In the dungeon, Riku finally revealed his true identity to the gathered gladiators. Tank Lepanto, a former captain in the Dressrosa army, had suspected Ricky was actually the old king. When Riku removed his helmet completely, the other fighters were shocked. Elisabello II, the king of Prodence, rushed forward and hugged Riku with joy. He praised Riku for having helped his kingdom in the past. Former royal soldiers and various warriors showed reverence for their former king. Riku explained what had really happened 10 years ago. He told them about Doflamingo's manipulation and the parasite strings that controlled his body. Many of the fighters were moved by his story, but they all soon forgot because Sugar transformed several of them into toys right there in the dungeon. Riku was later taken to the palace where he met Doflamingo face to face. Doflamingo kept him as a hostage. The Straw Hat Pirates arrived in Dressrosa around this time, allied with Trafalgar Law to take down Doflamingo. Thunder Soldier teamed up with them and the Tontada dwarves to execute Operation SOP. The plan was simple: knock Sugar unconscious, which would break her devil fruit's curse, and restore everyone to human form. They dug tunnels beneath the Colosseum to reach the underground factory. Usopp, one of the Straw Hat Pirates, accidentally became the hero who defeated Sugar. When Sugar tried to turn Usopp into a toy, he fought back desperately. In the chaos, Sugar forced him to eat an extremely spicy Tatababasco grape. The burning pain made Usopp's face contort into such a horrifying expression that Sugar fainted from sheer terror. The moment she lost consciousness, every toy in Dressrosa transformed back into their original form. Kairos returned to being human, though his severed leg remained gone. All the forgotten memories rushed back to everyone at once. The citizens suddenly remembered loved ones who had been erased. Families reunited in tears as they recalled sons, daughters, parents, and friends who had been stolen from them. They also remembered the truth about what happened 10 years ago. They realized Riku had been innocent all along, and that Doflamingo was the real monster. Kairos immediately rushed to kill Doflamingo, but only managed to strike down a clone made of strings. The real Doflamingo activated his most dangerous technique. Doflamingo created the birdcage, a massive dome of razor-sharp strings that surrounded all of Dressrosa. The strings slowly contracted, threatening to slice everything within the dome to pieces. Doflamingo announced a survival game. Citizens could either kill him or kill people on his hit list to make the birdcage stop. He placed massive bounties on 12 people, including Riku, Luffy, Law, and others. Many citizens, driven by fear for their lives, began hunting the bounty targets. Despite knowing the truth about Doflamingo's manipulation, some citizens still chased after Riku and his family. They were not motivated by hatred, but by desperation to survive the birdcage. The situation grew increasingly dire as the strings slowly squeezed the island. Riku reunited with Viola, Rebecca, and Thunder Soldier at the old King's Plateau. They worked together with the Straw Hat Pirates and other allies to stop Doflamingo's plan. Luffy engaged Doflamingo in an intense battle. Multiple other fights broke out across the island as Doflamingo's officers tried to stop the heroes. Kiros fought Diamante to avenge Scarlet's death. Rebecca watched as her father defeated the man who killed her mother. Citizens and gladiators worked together to slow the birdcage's contraction, buying time for Luffy to win. Admiral Fujitora of the Marines arrived, but chose not to interfere, wanting to see if the pirates could save the kingdom. Luffy finally defeated Doflamingo with a powerful finishing blow that sent the warlord crashing into the ground. The moment Doflamingo lost consciousness, the birdcage vanished. The citizens were saved. Doflamingo's 10-year reign of terror ended. Marines arrested Doflamingo and his officers, who would be sent to Impel Down prison. The citizens immediately begged Riku to return as their king. They crowded around him, pleading for forgiveness and asking him to lead them again. Riku initially refused. He said he was relieved that everything Doflamingo did was revealed, but he had no intention of becoming king again. The people would not accept this answer. They told him he was their one and only real king. His old friend Elisabello II added his voice to convince Riku. Admiral Fujitora made a stunning gesture. He knelt before Riku and bowed his head deeply. He apologized on behalf of the world government for allowing Doflamingo to take power and cause such suffering. This apology from a Marine admiral showed incredible humility and acknowledged the government's failure. Riku was deeply moved by Fujitora's sincerity. The citizens continued pleading, and Riku began reconsidering. 3 days later, Riku officially reclaimed the throne as King of Dressrosa. Rebecca was named Crown Princess, intended to rule the kingdom one day. However, Rebecca made a different choice. She stepped down as heir and asked her aunt Viola to take her place. Rebecca wanted to live with Kairos as his daughter, rather than stay in the palace. Riku understood and approved of her decision, comparing her to Scarlet, who had also chosen love over royal duty. The Tontatta dwarves could finally live openly in Dressrosa. They no longer needed to hide their existence or pretend to be fairies. Riku asked them to serve as escorts for his family when they attended the Levely. The kingdom slowly recovered from the damage. When the time came for the Levely, Riku traveled to Mary Geoise with Viola, Rebecca, and their dwarf escorts. There he met with other rulers including Admiral Fujitora and King Nefertari Cobra of Arabasta. Riku and Cobra both proposed abolishing the 7 warlords of the sea system. They argued that the system was fundamentally flawed based on their experiences. Crocodile had nearly destroyed Arabasta, and Doflamingo had stolen Dressrosa through abuse of his warlord privileges. Their testimonies carried enormous weight. Other rulers listened to these 2 respected kings who had both suffered because of warlords. The assembled nations voted to abolish the warlord system entirely, ending an institution that had existed for decades. This decision would have far-reaching effects throughout the world, as former warlords lost their government protection and became wanted criminals again. During the Levely, terrible events unfolded. Cobra was assassinated by Imu, the secret ruler of the world, though the government blamed it on the Revolutionary Army. The truth about these events remained hidden from most attendees, including Riku. Riku returned to Dressrosa as a restored king with renewed purpose. He had learned through his experiences that being too passive made him weak. He recognized that his pacifist ways, while noble, had consequences. His refusal to be more decisive resulted in immense suffering for his people and the death of his beloved daughter Scarlet. Riku vowed to be wiser and stronger as he led Dressrosa into the future. He would keep the compassion that defined his family for 800 years, while also being willing to act decisively when necessary. The citizens welcomed him back completely. They understood that his kindness was genuine and that he had always acted in their best interests. The legend of Riku's false betrayal transformed into a story of perseverance and restoration. Children would grow up hearing how their king endured 10 years of shame and exile, waiting patiently to save his kingdom. Kairos and Rebecca lived peacefully together, visiting the palace regularly with full acceptance from everyone. Riku Doldo III's story shows how even the best intentions can lead to tragedy if paired with weakness. His pacifism maintained centuries of peace, but also left him vulnerable to Doflamingo's manipulation. His trust in human goodness blinded him to the depths of evil that existed. His refusal to fight made him an easy target for someone willing to use any method to achieve their goals. Yet these flaws came from his greatest strengths: his compassion, his faith in people, and his desire for peace. The restored king now balanced wisdom with kindness. He maintained his family's benevolent traditions while acknowledging the need for strength when facing true evil. Dressrosa prospered once again with lush vegetation and beautiful flowers, the same peaceful kingdom it had always been. The Tontatta dwarves worked openly alongside humans as equals. The toys were freed and returned to their families. The terrible decade under Doflamingo became history, a dark chapter that the kingdom survived together. Riku's granddaughter Rebecca grew up free and happy with her father. Viola served as the new crown princess, ready to continue the Riku family's legacy of compassionate rule. The Colosseum reopened for entertainment rather than Doflamingo's schemes. Life returned to normal, though everyone who lived through those years would never forget what they had endured. Riku Doldo III stood as a symbol of how goodness could overcome evil, how patience could outlast tyranny, and how truth would eventually shine through even the darkest lies. Before we move on, make sure to subscribe if you're enjoying this breakdown. Moving on to Don Quixote Doflamingo, King of Dressrosa, recognized by the world government during his reign, later dethroned. His story began in the most privileged place in the world and ended in the deepest prison. Born as a world noble in Mary Geoise, the home of the celestial dragons, Doflamingo seemed destined for a life of ultimate power and luxury. His father Don Quixote Homing made a decision that changed everything. Homing believed the celestial dragons lived wrong lives and wanted to live as a normal human. He took his family away from Mary Geoise when Doflamingo was 8 years old, giving up their status as world nobles. The family moved to an unknown location in the North Blue. life became hell immediately. Common people hated the celestial dragons for centuries of cruelty and slavery. When citizens discovered a former world noble family living among them, they wanted revenge. Angry mobs attacked the family constantly. Doflamingo, his younger brother Rocinante, and their mother suffered alongside Homing. They went from living in palaces to hiding in ruins. They went from eating the finest food to starving. They went from commanding respect to facing torture. The mother died from illness caused by the harsh conditions. The two brothers watched their world collapse around them. Doflamingo blamed his father for everything. He wrote letters back to Mary Geoise, begging the other celestial dragons to let his family return. The world nobles refused. They considered Homing a traitor who abandoned his birthright. At age 10, Doflamingo shot and killed his own father. He cut off Homing's head and brought it back to Mary Geoise, thinking this would prove his loyalty. The celestial dragons still refused to accept him back. They told him he could never return. Doflamingo swore he would make the entire world pay for his suffering. He would tear down the system that rejected him. He would become the ultimate threat to the world government that turned him away. 3 loyal followers took in Doflamingo after his father's death. Trebol, Diamante, and Pica became his first crew members. Trebol gave him the Ito Ito no Mi, the string devil fruit, which let him create and control strings. These strings could cut through anything, control people like puppets, and even let him fly by attaching them to clouds. Trebol believed Doflamingo had the qualities of a king. He told the young boy that he could conquer the world with his power and rage. This encouragement fueled Doflamingo's ambition. He formed the Don Quixote Pirates and began his criminal career. Rocinante stayed with his brother despite their terrible childhood. The younger brother seemed quieter and simpler than Doflamingo. What Doflamingo never knew was that Rocinante secretly worked as a marine. The Navy sent Rocinante to spy on his brother's growing criminal organization. Rocinante took the code name Corazon and pretended to be Doflamingo's loyal executive. He sent information about the crew's activities back to the Marines for years. Rocinante loved his brother but hated his crimes. He hoped to stop Doflamingo from the inside. Doflamingo's reputation grew quickly. He became a warlord of the sea, which gave him protection from the Navy. Despite being a pirate, his bounty froze at 340 million berries. He also became the most powerful broker in the criminal underworld, using the alias Joker. He supplied weapons and smiles to multiple factions, notably Kaido, fueling conflicts worldwide. He sold weapons, devil fruits, and slaves to anyone with money. Caesar Clown, a mad scientist, produced artificial devil fruits called Smiles for him. Doflamingo sold these to Kaido, one of the 4 emperors. This connection made Doflamingo nearly untouchable. Attacking him meant facing Kaido's rage. The key moment came when Doflamingo decided to take over Dressrosa. This peaceful kingdom had been ruled by the Riku family for centuries. King Riku Doldo III governed with kindness and trust. Doflamingo wanted the throne for multiple reasons. Dressrosa had been ruled by his ancestors 800 years ago, before they became celestial dragons. He felt the kingdom belonged to his bloodline. The island also provided the perfect base for his operations. Doflamingo executed a plan so cruel that it destroyed everything the Riku family built. He used his strings to control King Riku like a puppet through his parasite technique. The controlled king walked through the streets, attacking his own citizens and soldiers. He stole money from people and burned buildings. Everyone watched their beloved king apparently go insane with violence. The kingdom fell into chaos. Citizens felt betrayed by the man they trusted. After Riku caused enough destruction, Doflamingo appeared as a hero to stop the chaos he himself caused. The desperate citizens begged him to become their new king, and he seized the throne. Doflamingo took the throne 10 years before Luffy arrived in Dressrosa. He ruled as a tyrant while pretending to be a beloved leader. His officer Sugar, who ate the Hobi Hobi no Mi, turned people into toys. Everyone who knew them forgot they ever existed. Magical contracts bound these toys to obey orders and kept them from revealing the truth about what happened to them. These toys kept their human consciousness but could not break free from the contract's control. Families forgot their own children. Wives forgot their husbands. The toys became slaves, forced to build weapons and work in factories. Some people lived as toys for 10 years, while their loved ones forgot them completely. The underground trade flourished under Doflamingo's rule. The Colosseum became a place where warriors fought for fake prizes, while Doflamingo gathered strong fighters to turn into toys. He produced weapons that fueled wars across the world. He manufactured artificial devil fruits that created armies of superpowered soldiers. He kidnapped children to use in Caesar Clown's experiments. Everything appeared perfect on the surface, while darkness consumed the foundation. Most citizens believed they lived in paradise. They had no memory of the people who became toys. They saw Doflamingo as a fair king who improved their lives. Law became central to Doflamingo's downfall. Trafalgar Law joined the Don Quixote pirates as a child because he wanted to destroy the world before his fatal amberlead disease killed him. Rocinante saved Law's life by making him eat the op-op fruit, halting the fatal progression of his disease and giving him incredible surgical powers. Doflamingo discovered Rocinante was a spy and shot his younger brother dead in front of Law. Law escaped and spent 13 years planning revenge. He became a warlord himself and allied with Luffy specifically to take down Doflamingo. Law's knowledge of how the crew operated made him the perfect enemy. The alliance between Law and Luffy aimed to destroy Doflamingo's production of smile fruits. They traveled to Punk Hazard and defeated Caesar Clown, kidnapping the scientist to cut off Doflamingo's supply chain. This forced Doflamingo to come to Dressrosa to handle the situation personally. Law's plan worked. Doflamingo arrived on the island angry and desperate. The situation spiraled when Sugar fainted and her powers deactivated. Every toy in Dressrosa transformed back into a human. All the forgotten memories returned at once. People remembered their family members who had been toys for years. They remembered the true story of how Doflamingo took the throne. The entire country realized they had been living a lie. Doflamingo trapped the entire island in a massive birdcage made of his strings. These strings formed a dome that covered all of Dressrosa. The birdcage slowly closed in, threatening to slice apart everyone inside. The strings cut through buildings and stone like they were made of paper. Nothing could break through them. Doflamingo announced a game where he placed bounties on the heads of specific people, turning citizens into hunters. The country descended into panic and violence. Doflamingo showed his true nature as chaos erupted. He enjoyed watching people destroy each other. Luffy fought Doflamingo in a brutal battle that shook the entire island. Doflamingo used his awakened devil fruit powers, which let him turn buildings and the ground into strings. The whole environment became his weapon. He created massive waves of string that crashed like tsunamis. Luffy struggled against someone so much stronger and more experienced. Doflamingo had been a pirate for over 20 years. He mastered all 3 types of haki, the spiritual power that enhanced combat abilities. His armament haki let him harden his strings to be sharper than blades. His observation haki let him predict movements. His conqueror's haki marked him as someone with the potential to be a king. The fight pushed Luffy to use Gear 4th, a transformation that combined his rubber powers with haki in a new way. This form gave him the strength and speed to match Doflamingo. The battle destroyed buildings across Dressrosa. Both fighters poured everything they had into defeating the other. Citizens watched in terror as these 2 monsters fought above their heads. The birdcage continued shrinking while they battled. Time was running out for everyone trapped inside. Other fighters tried pushing back the strings to slow them down, but nothing worked. Only defeating Doflamingo would stop the birdcage. Luffy's final attack, King Kong Gun, smashed Doflamingo deep into the ground of Dressrosa. The punch carried so much force that it created a crater. Doflamingo finally fell unconscious. The birdcage vanished immediately. Everyone trapped inside survived. Admiral Fujitora arrested Doflamingo, along with most of his crew members. The world government stripped away his titles as both warlord and king. His frozen bounty meant nothing now, since he would spend the rest of his life in prison. Marines wrapped him in chains and sea-stone shackles that prevented him from using his devil fruit powers. Doflamingo traveled to Impel, down on a marine ship under heavy guard. He laughed during the entire journey. He told everyone that a great war was coming that would shake the entire world. He claimed to know secrets about the world government that would change everything. Vice Admiral Tsuru, who had chased him for decades, transported him personally. She wanted to ensure he arrived at the prison. Doflamingo arrived at Impel Down and went straight to level 6, the deepest floor reserved for the most dangerous criminals. He joined prisoners like Crocodile had once been, other former warlords and legendary pirates. He is later seen wearing sunglasses in Impel Down. The cell in level 6 became Doflamingo's new home. Sea-stone chains bound his arms, legs, and chest to the floor. He could barely move. The prison remained completely dark and silent except for occasional screams from other inmates. Doflamingo lost everything he spent 30 years building. His kingdom was gone. His crew was captured. His business empire collapsed. His seat as a warlord vanished. His freedom ended. He went from being one of the most powerful men in the world to being a chained prisoner in eternal darkness. The man who once ruled a country now spent his days doing nothing but waiting in a cell. Doflamingo's legacy left permanent scars on everyone he touched. King Riku returned to his throne, but ruled over a kingdom that had suffered immensely. The families torn apart by the toy transformation struggled to rebuild their relationships. Some couples could no longer love each other after forgetting their bond for years. Some parents barely recognized their children. Law carried the trauma of watching Rocinante die while still pursuing his medical career as a pirate. The revolutionaries lost a major weapons supplier, but countless wars continued with the weapons he already sold. Kaido lost his supply of smile fruits, which weakened his army but left hundreds of failed smile users suffering forever from the fruit's side effects. The underworld broker Joker's disappearance created a power vacuum in the criminal world. Dozens of smaller brokers fought to claim his territory and contacts. The slave trade continued under new management. The weapons manufacturing moved to different islands. Doflamingo's arrest changed the players, but the game continued. His connections to the celestial dragons and his knowledge of the national treasure of Mary Geoise remained mysteries. He told Law about something hidden in the Holy Land that would shake the world if revealed. This secret gave him protection, even as a prisoner. The world government could never let him speak freely about what he knew. Doflamingo spent his childhood dreaming of revenge against the world that rejected him. He built a criminal empire that touched every corner of the globe. He ruled a kingdom through lies and fear. He created weapons that killed thousands of people. He enslaved his own citizens. He betrayed everyone who ever trusted him, including his own family. In the end, he lost everything to the same type of person he always underestimated. Luffy represented everything Doflamingo rejected. Luffy trusted his friends absolutely. He fought for others instead of himself. He refused to play the political games that Doflamingo mastered. That simple determination proved stronger than decades of planning and power. The former king now sits in his cell with nothing but memories. He remembers being a celestial dragon. He remembers killing his father. He remembers shooting Rocinante. He remembers the 10 years ruling Dressrosa. He remembers losing it all. Doflamingo accomplished everything he wanted except the one thing that mattered most. He never got revenge on the celestial dragons who rejected him. He never destroyed the system he hated. He never made the world pay for his suffering. Instead, he became another criminal, locked away and forgotten. The man who wanted to be king of the world became just another prisoner in level 6 of Impel Down. Before we move on, make sure to subscribe if you're enjoying this breakdown. Moving on, we have Neptune, king of the Ryugu Kingdom, Fishman Island. Neptune ruled the Ryugu Kingdom on Fishman Island as its king and protector. He stood 40 feet tall as a massive coelacanth merman with wild orange hair and a thick beard. His broad chest and powerful arms showed the strength of a warrior despite his age of 70 years. He carried a giant golden trident that matched his size and wore a crown shaped like a tulip with jewels embedded in it. Black tattoos covered both his arms in spiral patterns. Neptune looked like the classic image of a sea king from legends and stories. His appearance matched his reputation as the great knight of the sea. Neptune started his life as a soldier in the Ryugu Kingdom's army. He fought in battles and killed enemies who threatened his home. He avenged fallen comrades and took human prisoners during conflicts. The violence shaped him into a powerful warrior respected throughout the ocean. Other fighters acknowledged his strength and skill with his trident. Even as an old man, his reputation made people cautious around him. He could use merman combat, special techniques that let him manipulate water like a solid object. He grabbed water with his hands and launched it as weapons against enemies. His physical strength allowed him to wield his enormous trident and fight against multiple opponents. Neptune became friends with Whitebeard during their younger years. The two powerful warriors shared drinks and formed a bond that lasted decades. This friendship became important later when Whitebeard declared Fishman Island under his protection. The Emperor's flag kept pirates and threats away from the island. Whitebeard's reputation alone prevented attacks. Neptune appreciated this protection and mourned when his old friend died in the war at Marineford. The loss of Whitebeard left Fishman Island vulnerable to new threats. The Roger pirates visited Fishman Island during their final journey. Neptune trusted them enough to show them the poneglyphs hidden in the sea forest. These ancient stone tablets contained information about the Void Century and secrets the world government wanted hidden. The crew joked with Neptune about damages to the island and teased him about his future daughter. This showed the friendly relationship between the king and the legendary pirates. Neptune kept the visit quiet and protected the poneglyphs as his ancestors had done. Neptune married Queen Otohime, a small and delicate goldfish mermaid who seemed completely opposite to her giant husband. She dedicated her life to achieving peace between humans and fishmen. Otohime collected signatures from citizens who supported moving Fishman Island to the surface and living alongside humans. She faced constant opposition from fishmen who hated humans for centuries of slavery and discrimination. Neptune supported his wife completely, even though he understood the danger of her mission. He told his ministers to protect her while she pursued her dream. He loved her deeply and believed in her vision despite his own past as a soldier who killed humans. Fisher Tiger, the fishman adventurer and hero, met with Neptune and Otohime after returning from his travels. Neptune asked Tiger what he saw during his adventures. Tiger answered with one word: humans. His tone carried weight that Neptune understood. Later, Tiger attacked Mary Gioise and freed slaves, becoming a wanted criminal. Otohime told Neptune she heard a battle cry in Tiger's heart during their last meeting. After Tiger died, Neptune received a letter from Jinbei explaining the true circumstances. Neptune commented that Tiger lived the only way he could. He understood the pain that drove Tiger's actions. Jinbei joined the 7 warlords of the sea to support Otohime's cause. He visited the palace and spoke with Neptune about the decision. Jinbei explained that accepting the position would strengthen bonds between species and help Otohime's mission. Neptune agreed that this would make her happy. He appreciated Jinbei's sacrifice and respected him for using his position to help Fishman Island. Their friendship continued even after Jinbei gave up his warlord title. Neptune always welcomed Jinbei back to the island and later encouraged him to join Luffy's crew. A world noble named Mjosgard crashed his ship near Fishman Island. Citizens wanted to kill him for the cruelty his people inflicted on fishmen through slavery. Otohime protected the noble and treated his wounds. She announced she would travel to the surface with him to prove that humans and fishmen could coexist peacefully. Neptune objected immediately and said he would go in her place. Otohime refused, explaining that a weak person like her had to go to prove the surface was safe for everyone. Neptune let her go despite his fears. He waited 1 week, trying to keep his children's spirits up until she returned. Otohime came back safe with signatures from the world nobles supporting Fishman Island's request. Neptune and his children celebrated this huge success. Their joy ended quickly when someone assassinated Otohime in broad daylight. A human pirate took the blame, but the real killer was Hody Jones, a member of Neptune's own army. Nobody knew the truth except Shirahoshi's pet shark Megalo, who witnessed the murder. Hody escaped justice by framing the human. Everyone on Fishman Island believed the false story. Neptune felt rage consume him after his wife's death. He wanted to tear apart the person responsible, even though that person appeared to be unarmed. He locked himself in Hardshell Tower to control his anger and keep from acting on his violent thoughts. As a king, he wanted to honor Otohime's dream of peace. As a husband, he wanted revenge. Neptune grieved while trapped between these two desires. He told the minister of the left that even if the killer was unarmed, he would have torn them apart. But moments later, he noted that Otohime would not approve of revenge. He could not understand why he could not bring himself to attack the supposed killer. His love for Otohime barely overcame his rage. Neptune attended Otohime's funeral at the sea forest. He told his children to stay away from the funeral because threats still lurked around them. He watched Fukuboshi's speech through a visual broadcast. The entire kingdom mourned their beloved queen. Neptune carried this grief for the rest of his life. Even years later, he said he still loved Otohime and considered himself married to her. Her death shaped his decisions and his approach to ruling. Vander Decanine began harassing Shirahoshi with marriage proposals after Otohime's death. Letters kept flying to the princess, filled with threats and demands. Neptune read one of these disturbing letters and became enraged. When Deccan started threatening Shirahoshi's life with thrown weapons, Neptune ordered his 3 sons to form an army to capture the stalker. Shirahoshi remained locked in Hardshell Tower for 10 years for her safety. She could not leave her room because anything Deccan touched and threw would fly toward her forever. Neptune hated seeing his daughter imprisoned but could not risk her life. The Straw Hat Pirates arrived on Fishman Island after Luffy freed Shirahoshi's pet shark Megalo from the Kraken. Neptune personally traveled to meet them at Papag's mansion. He invited the crew to a banquet at Ryugu Palace as thanks for helping Megalo. Neptune explained that Shirahoshi cried constantly when her pet went missing, and he did not know how to comfort her. He rode his pet whale Ho, while the Straw Hats rode on Megalo. Neptune could communicate with whales, an unusual ability even for mermen. Most mermen only communicated with regular fish. Neptune eagerly looked forward to the banquet. He mentioned that Zoro had already arrived at the palace and started drinking without waiting. Neptune called him Zori and needed correction on the name. He sent soldiers to find the other crew members. Nami asked why Fishman Island was so bright despite being 10,000 meters below the surface. Neptune explained that roots from Sunlight Tree Eve reached down to the seafloor and transferred light to the island. This tree made life possible in the deep ocean. Everything went wrong when news arrived about mermaids disappearing from Mermaid Cove. Madame Shirley, a fortune teller whose predictions never failed, said Luffy would destroy Fishman Island. The palace guards demanded action against the Straw Hats. Neptune did not want to arrest them based only on a prediction. He thought it unfair to punish them for something they had not done yet. The minister of the left begged Neptune to use his power against the pirates for the island's safety. Neptune reluctantly attacked with his trident. Zoro blocked the attack easily, showing that Neptune's strength had declined with age. The Straw Hats defeated Neptune and his guards without seriously hurting anyone. They chained up the king, his ministers, and the palace guards. Neptune admitted he strained his back during the fight. He apologized for being unprepared and acknowledged he had gotten old. His sons returned but could not enter the palace because the Straw Hats controlled the only entrance. Zoro spoke with Fukaboshi through Denden Mushi while making demands. Neptune informed his son that he was speaking to the pirate worth 120 million berries. Neptune heard sounds from Shirahoshi's tower and realized his daughter faced danger. All the guards were tied up with him, leaving nobody to protect her. He ordered the Straw Hats to go make sure Shirahoshi was safe. When the guards protested, Neptune told them dire situations required sacrifices. He angrily told the pirates to go to the northeast part of the palace where her tower stood. Zoro asked why they should take orders from a hostage. Neptune became even angrier and said if anything happened to his daughter while he was helpless, he would chase them to the ends of the ocean. Brook and the Minister of the Right found Shirahoshi's room empty. Luffy had already taken her outside by stuffing her inside Megalo's mouth. Neptune correctly guessed what happened even though everyone else thought the idea was impossible. He started crying and demanded the Straw Hats return his daughter. Usopp yelled back that they did not kidnap her. Neptune had no choice but to trust that Luffy would keep Shirahoshi safe. Hody Jones and Vanderdecken 9 invaded the palace. Neptune immediately accused Decken of kidnapping Shirahoshi. This made Decken realize the princess had left, so he went after her. Neptune tearfully begged the Straw Hats to stop Decken and offered them anything they wanted. Hody then flooded the palace by breaking a wall. He launched an attack called Archer Shark at Neptune's soldiers. Neptune took several hits to protect his men, getting injured in the process. Zoro cut Neptune's chains and told him to take the other Straw Hats to safety since their hostage deal was void. Neptune ordered his guards to abandon the palace to Hody. He said they needed to regroup with Fukaboshi to prepare another battle. Neptune created a water vortex and cleared an escape path using his merman combat techniques. The ministers and palace guards escaped successfully. However, Neptune's back gave out at the worst moment. Ho arrived to save them, but Hody, powered by energy steroids, stopped Neptune with one hand. The drug gave Hody superhuman strength that overwhelmed even Neptune's power. The new Fishman pirates captured Neptune along with Zoro, Usopp, and Brook. Hody announced through a broadcast that he would execute Neptune at Gyeoncord Plaza in 3 hours. He planned to take over Fishman Island and create a kingdom with himself as ruler. Neptune could do nothing while chained and helpless. Citizens cried out to their king as Hody rode sea beasts to the plaza. Neptune pointed out the consequences of relying too much on energy steroids when Hody suffered from an overdose. The drug granted temporary strength but caused permanent damage. Neptune was tied up at the execution site, saddened that all his soldiers there had been defeated. His sons arrived to save him, but he warned them to be careful because all the pirates took energy steroids. The princes fought bravely and defeated the sea beasts. Unfortunately, the officers turned the tables by taking more drugs. The princes were defeated and chained next to their father. Fukaboshi apologized for losing. Neptune assured him that the new Fishman pirates' strength came from lies and drugs rather than true power. Jinbei, Shirahoshi, and Megalo were captured and brought to the plaza. Hody assembled all his subordinates for the execution. Madame Shiarly interrupted to say that Luffy would destroy Fishman Island, not Hody. After striking Shiarly out of anger, Hody revealed the truth that everyone had believed a lie for years. He announced that he was the one who assassinated Otohime, Neptune, his sons, Jinbei, the citizens, and even Hody's own subordinates were stunned. When Hody explained he used a human pirate as a scapegoat, Neptune felt furious. Hody responded by shooting a water shot through Neptune's chest, critically injuring the king. Hody then gloated about killing Otohime right in front of Shirahoshi. The princess revealed she knew the truth all along because Megalo witnessed the murder and told her secretly. Shirahoshi kept quiet for 10 years to honor her mother's last wish of holding no hatred for the killer. This deeply shocked Neptune and Jinbei. Neptune never imagined his young daughter carried such a heavy burden. Hody ridiculed Shirahoshi for letting him go free, calling her kindness stupidity. He tried to prove his point by torturing Neptune and the princes with his yabu, same technique, stabbing them repeatedly with water bullets. Hody was about to cut off Neptune's head when Luffy suddenly appeared. He had been hiding inside Megalo the whole time. Luffy kicked Hody away from the execution platform. Ho arrived and carried Neptune and the princes to safety. while the Straw Hats entered the battle. Neptune watched as the crew fought against the entire New Fishman pirates' army. He had faith that these pirates who saved his daughter would save his kingdom. Neptune panicked when Noah, the massive ship, started moving toward Fishman Island. He said Noah could never be moved until a certain day arrived. Neptune explained that Noah was important and must not be damaged. The ship held significance, tied to an ancient promise. As Luffy fought to destroy Noah and save the island, Neptune looked at the sky and apologized to Joy Boy for not being able to keep the promise. However, Sea Kings appeared and stopped Noah from falling, saving both the ship and the promise. After the battle ended, Neptune was informed that the kidnapped mermaids were found inside Ryugu Palace. All the treasures in the treasure room were gone, but Neptune ignored the theft. He had his men inform the citizens that the mermaids were safe and that all charges against the Straw Hat pirates were dropped. Neptune reunited with his sons and Shirahoshi at the plaza. When Jinbei offered to donate blood to save Luffy's life, Neptune did not stop him. He stated that the law prohibiting blood transfusions between species was just another curse that needed to end. Neptune showed mercy to everyone involved in the coup. He let the human pirates enslaved by Hody go free. He declared that the remaining New Fishman pirates would do penal work under army surveillance. He ordered the Fishman district closed off. Neptune then discovered the Straw Hats had run away to avoid a banquet. He called them with a baby Den Mushi, and invited them to the palace for a proper celebration. Nico Robin asked Neptune to speak privately outside after the banquet. She revealed she read the poneglyph in the sea forest and asked who Joy Boy was. Neptune looked surprised but decided to tell her because he trusted her. He explained that Joy Boy lived during the Void Century and left an apology message on the poneglyph. The apology was meant for the mermaid princess of that time. Joy Boy broke his side of a promise he made with Fishman Island. Neptune did not know the details but knew someone was supposed to come eventually and carry out the promise for Joy Boy. Robin asked if Joy Boy had the ability to control Sea Kings. Neptune said he could not. It was the mermaid princess from that time who had this power. He admitted that Shirahoshi awakening the same ability was not a good thing. Robin revealed she found another poneglyph in Skypiea and asked if the ancient mermaid princess went by a certain name. Neptune looked grim when he realized Robin knew the truth. His daughter Shirahoshi was Poseidon, one of the ancient weapons. Neptune feared what would happen if this information spread. Forces around the world would desire his daughter's power. The treasure thief Caribou was discovered and sent flying from the palace. Nami asked why Neptune did not chase him. Neptune said the treasures were not valuable compared to the lives saved. He allowed the Straw Hats to take the treasures if they could catch the thief. Neptune then checked on Hody and his officers in the prison tower. They had turned into aged and frail old men from the side effects of energy steroids. Neptune felt pity, seeing Hody reduced to a delusional shell. He said he would reconsider Hody's punishment now that the man could not hurt anyone. Neptune spoke privately with Jinbei about the Sun Pirates serving under Big Mom. Jinbei explained that working for an emperor protected his crew and gave them freedom. Neptune noted this arrangement kept Fishman Island safe after Whitebeard's death through Big Mom's flag. Jinbei worried about leaving because Big Mom's anger might spill onto the island. Neptune assured him they would be fine. The kingdom just gained 70,000 soldiers from the Fishman district. Neptune stated he found another flag to replace Big Mom's protection, the Straw Hats flag. Jinbei happily agreed with this plan. The Minister of the Right informed Neptune that the Tamatebako treasure box contained a bomb set to explode when opened. This security measure was added after the original contents were stolen. Neptune and the minister panicked when they learned Luffy gave all the treasures to Big Mom, including the Tamatebako. They feared the possibility of the Emperor opening the box and blamed them for the explosion. Neptune hoped the bomb might be a dud from sitting in the damp environment for so long. During the Straw Hats' departure, Neptune told his sons never to forget the debt they owed the crew. Neptune prepared to attend the Levely, the World Conference of Kings and Queens. He and his sons tried to convince Shirahoshi to accompany them. She initially refused due to fear of the surface world. After learning that Jinbei joined the Straw Hats and hearing about Luffy's actions against Big Mom, Neptune planned to declare Fishman Island under the Straw Hats' protection officially. Shirahoshi finally agreed to attend the Levely. Neptune and his family arrived at the Red Port. They made acquaintances with Monkey D. Garp, Luffy's grandfather, who escorted them to the gondola. Neptune interrupted a quarrel between Garp and King Sterry. He and Garp parted ways at the gondola. As they rode up to Mary Geoise, Neptune felt happy watching Shirahoshi marvel at the sun and sky. His daughter experienced the surface world that her mother dreamed of sharing with all fishmen. Neptune and his family arrived at Mary Geoise and conversed with other royals at the socializing plaza. A world noble named Charlos tried to enslave Shirahoshi by force. Neptune thanked Princess Vivi for protesting against Charlos. He prepared to attack both Charlos and CP0, even if it meant giving up on Otohime's dream. Before Neptune could strike, Mjosgard intervened. This was the same world noble that Otohime saved years ago. Mjosgard struck Charlos in the face with a spiked club and ordered Shirahoshi freed immediately. Neptune felt overwhelming gratitude toward Mjosgard. After Charlos was taken away, Neptune acknowledged that good humans existed. He said Mjosgard's actions saved Otohime's dream. The incident proved that her faith in humanity was not misplaced. Some humans would stand up for what was right, even against their own people. Neptune attended the Levely meetings with other kings and queens. During the fourth day of discussions, he noticed King Cobra's absence. The Alabasta king was reportedly sick, but Neptune reacted with quiet suspicion. Neptune returned to Fishman Island with his family after the Levely. Garp accompanied them and told Neptune about an incident involving Arabasta that occurred after they left Mary Geoise. Neptune listened to this news with concern for the royal family he met at the conference. Back home in the Ryugu Kingdom, Neptune resumed his duties as king. He worked to implement the progress his wife dreamed of while keeping the kingdom safe. When Vegapunk broadcast his message about the world sinking into the sea, Neptune listened alongside Shirahoshi, Megalo, and his ministers. Shirahoshi asked if it would really happen. Neptune answered that the message sounded absurd. However, he knew better than to dismiss warnings about world-changing events. He had seen the poneglyphs and knew secrets about the Void Century. The warning about rising seas might connect to ancient history. Neptune ruled his kingdom through the balance of strength and mercy. His past as a warrior gave him the power to protect his people. His love for Otohime taught him the value of peace and forgiveness. He survived assassination attempts, coups, and threats to his family. He watched his wife die and kept his daughter imprisoned for her safety. He faced execution and lived to see his kingdom saved. Neptune carried all these experiences as he guided Fishman Island toward a better future. The old king stood as the connection between the violent past and the hopeful future. He remembered when fishmen and humans killed each other without question. He fought in those battles himself, but he also remembered Otohime's dream of peace and Mjosgard's protection of Shirahoshi. He saw good humans like the Straw Hats risk everything to save his people. Neptune worked to break the cycle of hatred that defined his younger years. He used his authority to change laws that separated the species. He welcomed humans to his kingdom and protected their right to live there safely. Neptune knew his daughter held the power to destroy the world as the ancient weapon Poseidon. He feared this power but trusted Shirahoshi's kind heart. She inherited her mother's compassion and would never use her abilities for evil. Neptune protected this secret while preparing for the day when Shirahoshi might need to fulfill whatever role the ancient promise required. He did not understand all the details about Joy Boy and Noah, but he knew his family was tied to events that would shape the world's future. The king of Ryugu Kingdom carried the weight of the past, present, and future on his broad shoulders. He ruled with the strength of a warrior, the wisdom of experience, and the hope that his wife planted in his heart. Neptune stood as proof that even those who lived violent lives could change and work toward peace. His kingdom survived because he learned when to fight and when to show mercy. He protected his family while welcoming strangers. He honored ancient promises while building new alliances. Neptune proved that true strength came not from the trident he carried, but from the choices he made. Before we move on, make sure to subscribe if you're enjoying this breakdown. Moving on to Elisabelo II, King of the Provence Kingdom. Elisabelo II ruled the Provence Kingdom as its king and earned the nickname the Fighting King for his love of combat. He stood over 14 feet tall as a large, muscular man with slicked-back blonde hair, a thin beard, and a very prominent chin. His upper body was massive and powerful, while his legs appeared skinny and disproportioned to his build. He wore a large golden crown decorated with thick crosses atop a studded ring, a checkered cape with a furred collar draped over his shoulders. When fighting in arenas, he wore gold boxing gloves that matched his royal appearance. Elisabelo loved combat and lived up to his nickname. He seemed proud and arrogant at first glance, but his confidence came from real power rather than empty boasting. He stated that formations protecting him during battles were actually meant to protect other fighters from him, not the other way around. Given his destructive capabilities, these words held truth. He remained unfazed when defeated, simply stating he had done his part. His pride showed when people forgot his kingdom's name, or when his powerful attacks got used for simple tasks instead of glorious victories. His intense training served a purpose beyond personal glory. Elisabelo wanted to become powerful enough to protect his people. He also wished to form peaceful and friendly relationships with other countries. He showed a strong sense of honor and gratitude throughout his adventures. When he owed someone a debt, he fought to repay it, regardless of the danger. He was not above physically disciplining his own tactician da Gama when the man's greed clouded his judgment. Elisabelo developed a signature technique called the King Punch. This attack concentrated exceptional strength into a single blow that released immense air pressure. The punch caused massive damage to everything around him. Reports claimed he made a hole in an enemy fortress wall with a single blow during past battles. Rumors spread that one of his punches could even overpower one of the 4 emperors. Such incredible destructive power came with a significant cost. Elisabelo needed to warm up for a whole hour before landing such a devastating strike. He could use a weaker version if not fully charged, but the full power required patience and protection. The technique could only be used once per hour. This drawback made the attack impractical to prepare during actual battles. Elisabelo solved this problem by warming up an hour before his fights began. He relied on his tactician da Gama to advise him on the best moment to throw his punch. His men formed barriers during battles, not to protect their king, but to protect his opponents from accidentally taking the king punch head-on before the right moment arrived. The formation kept him safe while he charged his ultimate weapon. Da Gama served as Elisabelo's tactician and closest advisor. The king placed complete trust in da Gama and let him decide when to unleash the king punch. Their relationship worked well, despite da Gama's obsession with money, sometimes interfering with strategy. Elisabelo had no problem physically correcting his advisor when necessary. The two traveled together to events and competitions representing the Provence Kingdom. Their partnership combined Elisabelo's raw power with da Gama's strategic thinking. Elisabelo maintained a close friendship with Riku Doldo III, the former king of Dressrosa. Riku helped the Provence Kingdom numerous times in the past. When Elisabelo discovered Riku's true identity after believing him dead, he reacted with pure joy. He hugged his old friend and thanked him for his strength as a ruler. He lamented the loss of Riku's peaceful influence in modern politics. This showed a different side of Elisabelo compared to his normally aggressive demeanor. He showed great admiration and respect for his former peer. When Doflamingo's coup trapped Dressrosa, Elisabelo fought against the Don Quixote family, specifically to honor his debt to Riku. Elisabelo traveled to Dressrosa with da Gama to compete in the Corrida Coliseum. The prize was the Mera Mera no Mi, a powerful devil fruit that granted control over fire. Elisabelo wanted this power for his country. The tournament organizers assigned him to B block. Once the battle began, he allied with Dagama, Tank Lepanto, and several other fighters. They planned to gang up on Bellamy and eliminate threats systematically. Dagama and other gladiators guarded Elisabelo while attacking opponents. This strategy prevented the king from wasting his trump card on weak enemies. The battle progressed and most gladiators fell, including Dagama. Blue Gilly, who initially worked for Dagama, betrayed him and turned against the king, along with other gladiators. Blue Gilly noted that an exposed king was weak, and everyone now aimed for Elisabelo's head. The king calmly responded that Dagama did well, and he only needed to throw his punch. He stated the formation actually protected other gladiators, not himself. He said nothing was more dangerous than facing an exposed blade. While Elisabelo prepared his legendary punch, spectators recalled stories about him blowing away a fortress wall with a single strike. People started evacuating the Colosseum in fear of such a dangerous attack. Blue Gilly tried to break the king's neck with a kick before the punch launched. However, Blue Gilly was too slow. Elisabelo unleashed his devastating king punch, which lit up the entire stadium with its force. The attack sent a powerful shockwave across the area and shattered the arena floor. The punch moved so fast that Blue Gilly could not land his strike in time. Nearly every remaining fighter in B block fell instantly. Blue Gilly went down. Bellamy collapsed. Dozens of gladiators were defeated by the single attack. The announcer Gatz looked at the arena and stated nothing could have survived. He prepared to declare Elisabelo the winner. Then everyone discovered Bartolomeo still standing. The mysterious fighter used his barrier devil fruit power to protect himself completely from the king's destructive punch. Bartolomeo quickly countered with his barrier crash technique and knocked out Elisabelo. This made Bartolomeo the winner of B block. Elisabelo and Dagama were supposed to receive medical treatment for their injuries. Instead, guards threw them into an underground dungeon filled with broken toys, along with other disqualified participants. Elisabelo attempted to break out using his king punch. The attack proved useless because the dungeon was surrounded by earth itself instead of simple walls. His signature move could destroy walls, but not escape from being underground. He remained trapped with the other defeated fighters. Another prisoner named Ricky revealed himself as Riku Doldo III, the former king of Dressrosa. Elisabelo felt overjoyed seeing his old friend alive. He hugged Riku while remarking how he helped the Prodence kingdom in the past. He mentioned there had been outbreaks of war since Riku's disappearance. This reunion showed how much Elisabelo valued their friendship and respected Riku's influence on regional politics. Sugar, an officer of the Don Quixote pirates, transformed Elisabelo into a toy using her Hobi Hobi no Mi powers. He worked in the underground trade port, moving crates. While enslaved as a toy, he silently cried for someone to help him. His consciousness remained intact, but he could not speak freely or escape. Everyone who knew him forgot he existed. When Sugar lost consciousness, her curse broke, and all toys returned to their original forms. Elisabelo regained his human body, and his memories returned to everyone. He stood alongside the former slaves, as Usopp was hailed as their savior. Don Quixote do Flamingo trapped all of Dressrosa inside his birdcage after his crimes were exposed. Elisabelo returned to the surface with Dagama. He obviously scolded his tactician for wanting to chase the prize money Doflamingo offered for killing certain people. When Elisabelo found Monkey D, Luffy, Roronoa Zoro, and Trafalgar Law, he stated he wanted to defeat Doflamingo because he owed a debt to King Riku. He and Dagama joined forces with Luffy's group alongside multiple other fighters, including the Chinjao family, Hadruddin, Idio, Cavendish, Abdullah, Jeet, Blue Gilly, Orlumbus, and Suleiman. Former toys seeking revenge came for Luffy, Zoro, and Law. The allied Colosseum fighters defended them and fought off the angry crowd. The group then marched toward the palace and battled against Pika. who appeared as a massive stone giant. Elisabelo and Qinzhao combined their attacks to shatter Pika's giant stone hand. The partnership between these two powerful fighters proved effective against the enormous enemy. Their teamwork showed that former competitors could work together when facing a greater threat. The group pressed forward through Doflamingo's troops. Pika prepared to attack with his other arm. Zoro informed Elisabelo and Qinzhao that attacking Pika's stone body was useless since the officer's real body hid inside the stone. After avoiding Pika's strike, they watched Luffy, Zoro, Law, Abdullah, Jeet, and Uzi climb onto Pika's arm. They were amazed when Luffy shattered Pika's stone head with a powerful attack. When Pika's giant stone body stopped moving temporarily, Elisabelo and his allies continued their assault toward the palace. With Zoro fighting Pika and Sabo fighting the Marines, the Colosseum fighters charged up the New King's Plateau. They easily defeated the Don Quixote pirates' troops standing in their way. After reaching the second level, 5 Don Quixote pirate officers confronted them: Dellinger, Gladius, Lao Ji, Machweiss, and Baby 5. The Colosseum fighters later worked together to create an opening for Luffy and Cavendish to advance. Elisabelo offered assistance to Zoro during his battle with Pika. Zoro told him to save his King Punch for later instead of using it immediately. Elisabelo agreed, and together they dodged another assault from the stone giant. When Pika headed toward the Old King's Plateau inside a giant Pika statue, Elisabelo prepared to use his King Punch. Zoro told him to delay his attack and wait 2 minutes. With Orlumbus's help, Zoro reached Pika's real body. After Zoro sliced the Pika statue and defeated the officer, Elisabelo used his King Punch to destroy the rubble, falling toward the Old King's Plateau, where civilians had gathered. Elisabelo felt annoyed that he used his full-power King Punch as a simple cleanup measure. He grumbled that since the attack saved King Riku and the civilians, he would let it slide. His pride took a hit from using his ultimate technique for such a mundane purpose, but his sense of honor outweighed his ego. Protecting innocent people mattered more than glory. When the birdcage started shrinking and threatening to slice everyone inside, Sai told Elisabelo to wake up their fallen allies before the deadly strings reached them. After Mancherry temporarily healed the injured fighters, Elisabelo and the other gladiators defeated the remaining Don Quixote pirates on the New King's Plateau. They helped citizens flee from the shrinking birdcage. When the deadly cage closed in on the central streets, the gladiators worked together to push it back using Bartolomeo's barrier. Combined with other efforts across the city, they managed to stop the cage's movement for a moment before it started shrinking again. Once Luffy finally defeated Doflamingo, the gladiators witnessed the collapse of the birdcage. The deadly strings vanished, and Dressrosa was saved. With the downfall of the Don Quixote pirates, citizens begged Riku to return to the throne. Elisabelo encouraged his friend to become king again. He supported Riku, reclaiming his rightful position after everything they fought for. 3 days after Doflamingo's defeat, Elisabelo had a conversation with Riku after he returned to the throne. Elisabelo commented on how much the citizens changed after the battle with the Don Quixote pirates. He wondered if Riku was certain about giving the throne to Rebecca one day. This showed Elisabelo's interest in succession and the future of Dressrosa. He then returned to Prudence Kingdom with Dagama. As time for the Leveille approached, Elisabelo contacted Riku. He said he turned down the marine escort and asked if they could travel to Mary Geoise together. Riku agreed, and the two kingdoms' delegations traveled as one convoy. While traveling to the Leveille, Elisabelo played a game of chess with Riku. Rebecca came with news about Luffy's exploits at Totoland. Their convoy suddenly came under attack by pirates during the journey. However, Marines Kobe and Helmeppo saved them from the assault. After arriving at Mary Geoise, all participants gathered in the conference room to begin the Leveille. Elisabelo laughed with amusement at Beer 6's comment about Luffy causing worldwide disturbances multiple times. He found humor in the chaos that young pirate created wherever he went. Elisabelo participated in the discussions between world leaders about important political matters. After the Levely ended, he returned to the Prodence Kingdom. During Dr. Vegapunk's worldwide broadcast, Elisabello listened to shocking revelations about the world. He learned about the destruction of Lulusia Kingdom and was shocked by this news. He immediately ordered Dagama to check on the kingdom's status. This showed his concern for other nations and his desire to understand global events. The broadcast revealed information that could change the entire world's future. Elisabello represented a different type of king compared to peaceful rulers like Riku or tyrannical ones like Doflamingo. He led through strength and combat ability while maintaining honor and friendship. His signature King Punch made him a living weapon, but he used that power to protect rather than conquer. He trained intensely not for personal glory, but to defend his people. He formed alliances based on mutual respect and repaid debts, even when dangerous. The Fighting King showed that combat prowess and honorable leadership could coexist. He was proud, but not cruel. He was powerful, but not reckless. He valued strategy as much as strength, trusting Dagama to guide his decisions. His friendship with Riku demonstrated his ability to respect leaders with different governing styles. He could fight in arenas for sport or on battlefields for justice with equal dedication. Elisabello's journey from tournament competitor to Dressrosa's defender showed his character growth. He entered the Corrida Coliseum seeking power for his kingdom through the Mera Mera no Mi. He left Dressrosa having formed new alliances and deepened old friendships. He experienced enslavement as a toy and understood suffering in a new way. He fought alongside former competitors against a common enemy. These experiences shaped him into a more well-rounded leader. The king of Prodence Kingdom stood as proof that strength without honor was meaningless. His King Punch could destroy fortresses, but his loyalty to friends and dedication to protecting innocents defined him more than any technique. He returned home, having helped save an entire kingdom, and reaffirmed his commitment to forming peaceful relationships with other countries. Elisabello continued ruling with the same fighting spirit that earned his nickname while carrying the wisdom gained from his adventures. Before we move on, make sure to subscribe if you're enjoying this breakdown. Moving on, we have Wapol, King of the Drum Kingdom. Wapol ruled the Drum Kingdom before losing everything and rebuilding his power from nothing. He stood nearly 7 feet tall as an overweight man with dark violet hair and a distinctive cylinder-shaped jaw made of tin plates, which earned him the nickname Tin Plate Wapol. He wore tin plate armor and a hooded cape made from white walkie skin during his time as king. His unusual appearance and mechanical jaw made him instantly recognizable. After losing weight through his devil fruit powers, he could become slim and taller, completely changing his body shape. Wapol was born as a prince to a beloved king who ruled Drum Kingdom with justice and care for his people. His father worried constantly about his son's terrible personality, even when Wapol was a child. According to Dalton, the king spoiled Wapol badly. The father seemingly wanted to raise him into a kind and caring king like himself, but failed completely. When his father died, Wapol inherited the throne and became the new king of Drum Island. He immediately proved to be the opposite of his father in every way. Wapol ruled as a spoiled and corrupt king who held no regard for his subjects. He was cowardly and disloyal, caring only about satisfying his selfish desires. He brutally beat anyone who disobeyed him. Wapol loved dominating others with his family's power and wealth. He truly believed none should dare question his authority. He held no understanding of politics or governmental issues. He foolishly believed everything was fine as long as problems did not directly affect his kingdom. His self-centered actions ruined Drum Kingdom's reputation and caused all people to both fear and hate him. Wapol ate the Baku Baku no Mi, a devil fruit that let him expand his mouth and eat virtually anything. He could transform his body to replicate the characteristics and functions of whatever he ate in the last 24 hours. If he ate a cannon, he could transform part of his body into a cannon. He could use multiple transformations at once. He could also reconfigure objects he swallowed in his belly and regurgitate them as something completely new. This ability later let him create Wapametal, a special alloy. He could even devour people whole and combine them within himself, creating stronger warriors from multiple people merged together. Wapol could devour his own body until only his lower jaw remained. He then regurgitated himself with his body, temporarily altered for better combat performance. This slim-up technique made him taller, thinner, and more agile than his normal fat form. He used this transformation when he needed speed instead of bulk. His gluttony combined with his devil fruit powers made him dangerous. He ate constantly, causing massive damage to towns. This led to his arrest at one point by Marines, who did not recognize him as a king. 6 years before the Straw Hats arrived, Wapol exiled all doctors in Drum Kingdom except for 20. He kept the Ishi-20 as his personal doctors while banishing or murdering everyone else. He believed he could control citizens by forcing them to beg him for medical treatment and pay huge amounts of money. Only 2 doctors managed to elude his grasp, Hiriluk and Kureha. This cruel policy destroyed the medical system that made Drum Kingdom famous. Before Wapol's rule, the kingdom possessed the most numerous and skilled doctors in the entire Grand Line. Wapol attended a world meeting at Mary Jiawaz during his reign. Leaders discussed the revolutionary named Dragon and how he would threaten the world. Wapol did not care at all since he believed his Drum Kingdom would not fall to Dragon. He simply picked his nose and shrugged the matter off. Nefertari Cobra, the king of Arabasta, scolded Wapol for not taking the situation seriously. This angered Wapol deeply. To get revenge, he intentionally hit Cobra's 10-year-old daughter Vivi and claimed it was an accident. Vivi simply apologized to Wapol instead of making trouble. She was seen crying afterward with Igaram while Dalton witnessed it. Wapol accomplished nothing with his petty revenge and left to return to Drum. 1 year later, Wapol laid a trap for Hiriluk. He spread a rumor that the Ishi-20 were sick. Wapol believed Hiriluk would foolishly come to save them despite being a quack doctor. Hiriluk responded to the news, and Wapol was informed of his arrival. With several men, Wapol boastfully told Hiriluk that he was tricked when the doctor arrived at the castle. Before Wapol could order his firing squad to execute Hiriluk, the doctor asked them to wait. Hiriluk gave a speech about how a person truly dies. This brought tears to Dalton, but left Wapol unmoved. Hiriluk then blew himself up rather than let Wapol execute him. The entire sight made Wapol laugh, as he found Hiriluk an idiot for killing himself. Chopper arrived at the scene and witnessed Wapol laughing at Hiriluk's death. Enraged, Chopper flew into a berserk rage and activated his heavy point transformation for the second time. He attempted to attack Wapol, but Dalton stopped him. Dalton convinced Chopper to leave the area. Wapol questioned why Dalton let him go. Dalton then spoke against Wapol about how reviled he and his government were. Dalton told his king that no matter how good their medical skills were, there was no cure for Wapol's foolishness. Angered by this insubordination, Wapol transformed into a massive form covered in weapons and defeated Dalton. He imprisoned Dalton for a week until he apologized. The Blackbeard pirates arrived on Drum Island and attacked. Wapol and his loyal followers immediately fled without fighting when they realized the pirates were too strong. They abandoned the country and escaped to sea on the Blyking, their ship. Only Dalton and the citizens were left behind to face the enemy alone. Wapol and his men disguised themselves as pirates and wandered the seas trying to find their way back home. This cowardly act permanently destroyed whatever respect anyone had for him. Wapol encountered the Going Merry while wandering at sea. He and his men boarded the ship and held the Straw Hats at gunpoint temporarily. Wapol asked if they had any eternal poses to Drum. The Straw Hats had never heard of the country. Wapol decided to steal their treasure and eat their ship literally. As he devoured parts of the ship, the Straw Hats retaliated. Luffy attacked Wapol directly. Wapol swallowed most of Luffy, but had trouble chewing due to his rubber body. Luffy's unswallowed arms stretched back and hit Wapol. The strike sent Wapol flying into the open sea. His men fished him out before he drowned, and they continued searching for Drum. The next day, Wapol and his men reached Drum Island. Former subjects guarding the entrance tried to stop them, but failed. Wapol decided to head to his castle aboard Robson, his white walkie pet. He learned the Straw Hats had also landed on Drum, Wanting revenge, Walpole followed their trail to the town of Bighorn. In Bighorn, Walpole and his men seized the town. He began eating houses and buildings. He learned the Straw Hats, headed to his castle, looking for Dr. Kureha, who lived there. Angered, Walpole decided to eat her along with Luffy. Dalton attacked Walpole before he could leave. The Ishii 2-0 stitched Walpole back up from Dalton's injury. After being fixed, Walpole talked with the defiant Dalton about his rule and his decision to exile doctors. Walpole ordered his men to execute the traitor. Dalton dodged most attacks using his devil fruit power. Chess shot at villagers who tried helping Dalton. Dalton took the hits to protect them. The situation made Walpole laugh. Suddenly, an avalanche appeared, coming from Drum Peak toward Bighorn. Walpole hopped onto Robson with Chess and Kuromarimo and attempted to escape. They could not outrun the avalanche. Buried under snow, Walpole chewed his way out and spat out Chess and Kuromarimo, who he accidentally swallowed. Angered, Walpole figured the Straw Hats planned this. He rushed up the mountain riding Robson and caught up with Luffy. Luffy ignored Walpole completely due to the current situation involving Sanji and Nami. Walpole created a new law stating whoever ignored the king would be executed. He ordered Chess and Kuromarimo to attack. Several Lapons came out and protected Luffy. With the Lapons blocking their path, Luffy escaped. After defeating the giant rabbits, Walpole continued toward his castle. Using Robson, Walpole and his cohorts scaled the cliffs and reached the castle. Walpole noticed the Drum Kingdom's flag was replaced with a pirate flag. Kureha told Walpole to leave as his castle was now Hiraluk's tomb and the kingdom he ruled was gone. Luffy punched Walpole directly in the face before he could respond. Nearly punched off the mountain, Walpole regained his footing and sent Chess and Kuromarimo to fight. As they battled Sanji and Chopper, Walpole realized Chopper was the same creature that attacked him when Hiraluk died. Walpole swallowed Chopper during the fight. Luffy hit Walpole in the stomach and made him spit Chopper out. Walpole accidentally hit Robson while flying and sent the hippo away from the castle. After recovering, Walpole showed his Baku Baku factory power. He then devoured both Chess and Kuromarimo and combined them into Chessmarimo, a merged being that emerged from the door in his stomach. Walpole decided to shoot down the pirate flag on his castle. Chopper became enraged and climbed onto Walpole. Instead of attacking, Chopper asked Walpole to leave. Walpole shot Chopper off him. Luffy restored the pirate flag to its place. Luffy told Walpole that he and his men were frauds who did not understand the true meaning of flags. Walpole prepared to shoot Luffy and the flag together. Chopper attacked before he could fire. While everyone watched Chopper fight Chessmarimo, Walpole snuck back into his castle unnoticed. Inside, he was shocked and angered by his castle's condition. He found Nami and chased her. His fat body got stuck in a stairway passage. Walpole ate himself completely until only his lower jaw remained. Inside his mouth, he rearranged his bones and muscles to become a slimmer and taller version of himself. In this slim-up form, he continued chasing Nami. When he caught her, Luffy kicked him in the face. Walpole tried to eat all the weapons in his armory to become a super weapon. However, Nami had stolen the key when he caught her earlier. Unable to open the armory, Walpole ran away to get his trump card, the Royal Drum Crown 7-shot Blyking cannon. When he tried to fire it, the cannon did not work. Birds had built a nest in it while it sat unmaintained. The nest clogged the firing mechanism. Angered, Walpole yelled at the bird. Luffy grabbed Walpole's entire jaw with his hand. As Luffy held onto his mouth, Walpole threatened that this was an international crime, since Drum belonged to the world government. Unmoved, Luffy held firm and told Walpole it did not matter. Walpole opened his mouth wide to swallow Luffy. Luffy's grip simply stretched while holding Walpole's mouth. Walpole turned his tongue into a cannon and fired at Luffy. The explosion blew a hole in his tower. Luffy suddenly appeared behind Walpole. Luffy latched onto him and catapulted him to the roof with his Gomu Gomu no bow gun technique. Lodged at the tip of the roof, Walpole was placed before Hiraluk's pirate flag. Luffy prepared to send Wapol flying with a very long Gomu no bazooka. Wapol pleaded for mercy by offering rewards such as a position in his government. In a last effort, Wapol offered to make Luffy a vice king of Drum. Luffy completely ignored his pleas and sent Wapol flying far off from Drum. This marked Wapol's second exile from his homeland. He lost his kingdom permanently this time. After being sent flying, Wapol wandered the Grand Line in an eating spree. He began eating various things from lamps to benches. He transformed into them to eat more stuff. Soon, entire towns became his meal. He practically had the time of his life, causing misfortune to everyone around him. Eventually, his actions caught Marine attention. 2 Marines who did not recognize him as a king arrested him. This shocked Wapol. He managed to escape his captors. Wapol finally realized he was no longer a king and became deeply depressed. He became a homeless man, whose only companion was a dog that constantly urinated on him. He tried selling matches for a living, but people turned him down. Eventually, Wapol settled under a bridge with nowhere to go. Having no money for food, all he could afford to eat was garbage scattered around him. While eating garbage, strange new toys were inadvertently created by Wapol using his Baku Baku factory technique. The dog that constantly urinated on him apparently got combined with garbage and obtained a googly-eyed box for a head. These toys attracted children who were fascinated by them. Wapol, seeing how children loved these toys, decided to set up shop and sell them for a living. Eventually, he built a proper toy shop with his earnings. The shop became very popular quickly. The demand for his toys was almost overwhelming. He constantly ran out of stock and had customers as far as he could see. Scientists discovered a secret within Wapol's toys. In the process of creating toys, Wapol had also created a new type of steel. This steel was called Wapo Metal and instantly made headline news. Wapol became an instant celebrity. With the publicity, he expanded his toy shop greatly. Soon, he had an entire industry. He opened an actual Baku Baku factory which produced Wapo Metal and his toys. This led to the creation of Wapol Concern with him as CEO. With his wealth and success, Wapol married Miss Universe. Together with Hakawan, his googly-eyed box-headed dog, and his wife, Wapol regained world-famous status. He became even wealthier than when he was king. The world nobles acknowledged Wapol's success during the time skip. They made him the ruler of a new kingdom called the Evil Black Drum Kingdom in the South Blue. He and Miss Universe, now called Kinderella, remained married. The dog that stayed with him since his homeless days also remained by his side. When Wapol learned Dalton would attend the upcoming Leveille, he began wondering how he could take down his former subordinate. Wapol and Kinderella later arrived at Marigioz for the Leveille. At the castle, Wapol approached and insulted Vivi. Dalton interrupted and drove Wapol away through intimidation. When they met again, Wapol yelled at Dalton by calling him a servant. Dalton firmly stated they were now equals. His tone sounded threatening, and Wapol backed off. When Charlos tried to enslave Shirahoshi by force, Wapol was frightened by the scene and kept his distance. He was surprised to see Don Quixote Miosgard attacking Charlos in Shirahoshi's defense. Wapol later went to the conference room with other kings and queens to begin the Leveille. As he took his seat, Wapol grinned wickedly at Dalton. His petty desire for revenge against his former subordinate remained strong even after all these years. While the Leveille proceeded, Wapol spied on a meeting between the 5 elders and Nefertari Cobra through a hole in a wall. Unwittingly, he learned about Imu's existence and witnessed Cobra's murder. Realizing the danger this knowledge placed him in, Wapol immediately began running away through Pangaea Castle. He destroyed walls in his path using his powers. During his escape, he broke into a guest room where Vivi was being held captive by CP0. Vivi took this chance to jump into Wapol's mouth and escape with him. They eventually ran past Kinderella, who mistakenly thought the two were eloping. Other monarchs at the Leveille were told to proceed despite Wapol and Cobra's absence. After the Leveille ended, Wapol and Vivi stowed away in the Aegis Kingdom's ship. Wapol contacted Morgans the president of the World Economy newspaper. He said he had information for the journalist. Morgans became interested that Walpole was the subject of a manhunt. He agreed to visit the ship under the pretense of a scoop so Walpole could sneak aboard. Vivi asked Walpole what he saw at the Levely and requested to use his Den Mushi to contact her father. Walpole refused both requests. He told her that calling her father was the worst possible thing she could do. Walpole went into hiding alongside Vivi, taking shelter in Morgan's airship. Walpole showed great anxiety over the possibility of the world government finding their location. He begged Vivi to be quiet so as not to alert any possible Den Mushi hidden on the ship, while eavesdropping with Morgans and Vivi on a call from Egghead to Mary Geoise. Walpole was visibly shocked hearing Luffy speak on the call. Luffy held York hostage and made demands to the Five Elders. Walpole silently watched Vegapunk's worldwide broadcast along with other reporters. Walpole was surprised to see Vivi covering Morgan's beak to prevent him from interrupting. As Vegapunk was about to reveal information about people who bear the will of D, Walpole wondered what he would say. The broadcast suddenly stopped. Following the broadcast's end, Vivi argued with Morgans over his plans to create a grim story based on Vegapunk's theories. When Morgans threatened to hand Vivi over to the government, Walpole quickly urged her to apologize. He knew he was also being hunted. His pleas fell on deaf ears. Walpole's journey from beloved prince to hated tyrant to homeless man to successful businessman to king again showed the strange twists of fate. He was born with every advantage but squandered it through selfishness and cruelty. He lost everything through his own cowardice. He survived by eating garbage in the streets. He accidentally created something valuable from trash. He rebuilt his fortune from nothing through persistence and his devil fruit powers. He regained status and power despite his terrible personality. Walpole showed no ability to learn from his mistakes. Even after being homeless and forced to eat garbage, he remained as self-centered and arrogant as ever. Once he regained wealth, he attended the Levely solely to get revenge on Dalton rather than for any diplomatic purpose. His petty grudges defined him more than any wisdom. However, witnessing Cobra's assassination by Emu and the Five Elders horrified him. He could not celebrate despite disliking Cobra. The terrifying secrets of the world government frightened him enough to flee and hide. Walpole now lived as a fugitive despite being a king. He witnessed the greatest secret of the world. The empty throne was occupied by Emu. The world government would kill him at any cost to protect this secret. His loyalty to the government meant nothing. His kingdom and wealth could not protect him. He found himself helping Vivi, the same girl he hit without hesitation years ago. They were on the same ship with Morgans, sheltering them from the most powerful organization in the world. The king of the evil Black Drum Kingdom carried knowledge that made him a target. He went from ruling through fear to fleeing in fear. He discovered that even kings could become hunted criminals when they learned too much. Walpole's life proved that power and wealth meant nothing against certain forces. His devil fruit powers and business success could not save him from the consequences of witnessing forbidden truths. The spoiled prince, who became a tyrant king, then a homeless beggar, then a wealthy businessman, then a king again, now lived as a fugitive hiding in an airship, proving that fate had more twists waiting for everyone. Before we move on, make sure to subscribe if you're enjoying this breakdown. Moving on to Dalton, king of the Sakura Kingdom, renamed Drum after Walpole's exile. Dalton ruled the Sakura Kingdom as its elected king after years of loyal service to Drum Island. He stood over 7 feet tall as an imposing man with slicked black hair and a goatee. He wore a long, white, fur-lined green tunic with armor plates on his arms. Sometimes he covered his head with a green and white fur-lined hat equipped with ear flaps against the island's intense cold. He always wore long boots. He carried his weapon of choice, an extra-large spade, in a sheath hanging on his back. After becoming king, he started wearing a fur-lined cape with the kingdom's symbol over his standard outfit. Dalton was a brave warrior and compassionate man who deeply cared for the people of Drum Island. In return, the people learned to trust him completely. He was willing to sacrifice his life for the kingdom's well-being. He proved this multiple times by defying Walpole, even with fatal injuries on his body. He was considerably honorable and despised his service to Walpole when that tyrant was king. He visibly wept for Dr. Hiruluk upon his death before urging Chopper to live and fulfill Hiruluk's dream to save the kingdom. As the new king of Sakura Kingdom, Dalton lived a simple and humble life. He refused to live in the castle and preferred to live amongst the common people of Drum Island. This choice showed his character differed completely from Walpole's arrogant rule. Dalton claimed he liked the rice with chestnuts of Bighorn. He had the habit of giving people completely trivial information they never asked for when describing a topic. He would mention things like Kureha, liking pickled plums, or Gyasta being a fine place for skating, when those details had nothing to do with the conversation. Dalton ate the Ushi Ushi no Mi model bison, a Zoan-type devil fruit that enabled him to transform into a bison. He could also take a half-human, half-bison form that resembled a minotaur. His human beast form was primarily used for combat and was powerful enough to stop Chopper's heavy point transformation. The main advantage of this fruit was not just enhanced strength, but also speed. His beast form allowed him to run at much higher speeds than his human form, making it ideal for transportation. He proved incredibly fast, evading bullets shot at him by Walpole's soldiers with tremendous agility. In his human beast form, Dalton used Fiddlebamf, a technique where he twirled his spade and charged opponents at incredible speed. This attack sliced up anything in its path. The technique worked especially well against large groups of enemies. Dalton's main weapon was a spade, a large polearm with an oversized blade. It was not shaped like most spades. Rather than having a fan-like shape, it was an unusual double-edged sword-like polearm with a round tip instead of a sharp point. Its overall appearance looked like an oar, but with a metal head instead of wood. Dalton was strong enough that Walpole had to consume all the weapons in his armory just to defeat him. He possessed great strength enhanced by his devil fruit power. He was fast enough to surprise Walpole and decapitate him with a single blow. He was also extremely resilient. He took many arrows from chess and was buried by an avalanche yet survived. Dalton also had considerable leadership skills. He kept Drum Kingdom from falling into chaos for months after Walpole and his men abandoned it. Eventually, he became king through election by the kingdom's people. At age 13, Dalton was already serving Drum Island's royal house under its former king, the father of then Prince Walpole. Though loyal, Dalton worried that Walpole's upbringing lacked discipline. He was proven correct when Walpole inherited the throne as a selfish, abusive tyrant. Eventually, Dalton became the captain of Drum's royal guard. He stood on par with Walpole's top ministers Chess and Kuromarimo. However, he grew increasingly disgusted at his new king's terrible personality and disregard for Drum's people. Dalton was deeply loyal and indebted to Walpole's father, the prior king of Drum. He cited this as the only reason he even tolerated Walpole's reign to begin with. Dalton worked for Walpole's father and was close enough to him to act as a confidant. He listened to the former king's grievances about Walpole's troublesome behavior as a prince. This made watching Walpole destroy everything his father built even more painful for Dalton. Dalton's view became entrenched when he accompanied Walpole to marry Giois for the Levely. He witnessed Walpole striking Arabasta's Princess Vivi, who was only 10 years old, simply to spite her father, King Cobra. Cobra had scolded Walpole for his irresponsibility during the meeting. Walpole intentionally knocked Vivi down as he walked past her on the street outside. Instead of bursting into tears, the princess tactfully apologized and said it was her fault. Dalton saw this display of maturity from a child and compared it against Walpole's childish cruelty. He noted how, even at her young age, Vivi was fully aware of her political status, and how one minor incident could escalate into full-blown war between kingdoms. Still, Dalton could do little to check Walpole's reign, even as the Doctor Hunt purged most of Drum's doctors. Walpole exiled all doctors except 20. He kept the Ishi-20 as his personal doctors, while banishing or murdering everyone else. Walpole monopolized medical care under direct royal control. When Hiriluk continued defying the hunt, Walpole planned to execute him over Dalton's protests. Walpole fabricated news that all the royal doctors fell ill. He set Dalton and a large platoon at the foot of Drum Castle, awaiting the outlaw doctor's help. To Dalton's surprise, Hiriluk immediately rushed into the trap. On finding the truth, Hiriluk gave only relief that all were healthy. He spoke about his dreams of redeeming the kingdom. Driven to tears, Dalton witnessed Hiriluk commit suicide via explosive rather than let Walpole execute him. Shortly after, a vengeful Tony Chopper attacked. Knowing Walpole's strength, Dalton held off the young outcast. He begged Chopper to retreat so he could live to fulfill Hiriluk's dream. While Chopper relented, Walpole loudly mocked all their sacrifices. Enraged by Walpole's mockery, Dalton turned on Walpole himself. He told his king that treating people like animals meant the country could not be saved, no matter how advanced its medical science was. He said medicine could not cure stupidity. Dalton was easily overpowered and imprisoned. Walpole constantly abused him with help from his aides, Chess and Kuromarimo. Dalton remained imprisoned until the Blackbeard pirates arrived. The Blackbeard pirates raided Drum Island. Walpole promptly fled the island with a body of loyalists without fighting back. He took the Ishi-20 doctors and his soldiers while leaving the remaining citizens to fend for themselves. Freed in their absence, Dalton took over, rebuilding the now nameless kingdom. He worked tirelessly to maintain order and won the trust of the people. For months, he kept the kingdom functioning, despite having no official title or authority. A few months after Blackbeard's attack, Dalton found a new pirate ship approaching. The Going Merry, bearing Monkey D. Luffy's Straw Hat Pirates, arrived. Leading a local militia to meet them, Dalton was at first unsympathetic to their pleas for a doctor to treat the severely ill Nami. Open fighting nearly broke out before Nefertari Vivi diffused tensions. Seeing both Vivi, whom he semi-remembered from the Levely, and Luffy prostrating for help, moved Dalton. He relented and decided to help them. Taking the Straw Hats to his own home in Big Horn, Dalton explained the island's history. He told them about the lone surviving doctor, the witch Kureha. Though he warned that Kureha only left her home, Walpole's abandoned castle, of her own accord, Luffy and Sanji promptly set out to find her. Remaining behind, Dalton, Vivi, and Usopp were dismayed to learn from another villager that Kureha was in a neighboring town. Failing to catch her in time, Dalton soon received worse news. Walpole and his loyalists had returned to Drum, intent on retaking power. With the full might of his beast form, Dalton mercilessly attacked his former comrades. He even cut Walpole down with a single strike that decapitated him. Again, however, he was outmatched. The Ishi-20 instantly revived Walpole by reattaching his head. Chess soon began firing arrows on bystanders. Dalton was forced to shield them with his own body. He took many arrows while protecting innocent people. The battle was then cut short by a sudden avalanche from nearby mountains. The avalanche drove off Walpole and his main aides, but also buried the critically injured Dalton. While Walpole's remaining soldiers gloated over Dalton's fate, Roronoa Zoro chanced upon them and swiftly beat them. This allowed a rescue party to dig Dalton out from the snow. Unexpectedly, the Ishi-20 volunteered to revive Dalton. They confessed that they too admired him and opposed Walpole. They had served Walpole out of fear but respected Dalton's courage. On waking, Dalton immediately swore to pursue and end Walpole's threat at any cost. Though he could barely stand, his resolve impressed everyone. Usopp even volunteered to carry him forward. When Usopp proved unfit for carrying the large man, Zoro took over. Several other villagers revealed a hidden ropeway leading to Drum Castle. As they made their way up, Dalton revealed his last resort. He planned to suicide bomb Walpole with a belt of dynamite strapped to his body. He was willing to die if it meant stopping Walpole from reclaiming the throne. Before they reached the top, Luffy defeated Walpole and knocked him off the island. Dalton's sacrifice was not needed. Upon arriving at the castle, Dalton saw Chopper and recognized him from years ago. Kureha treated Dalton's injuries, and he rested in the castle. After the Straw Hats left, Dalton watched Hiriluk's sakura bloom. The doctor's dream of pink snow falling on Drum Island came true. Dalton and Kureha were watching the snow fall when citizens informed them about Luffy's bounty. They also learned that Portgas D. Ace left a message for Luffy. Dalton, having recognized Vivi, expected the Straw Hats to be sailing for the Arabasta Kingdom. Kureha mused about the will of D. The citizens elected Dalton as king of the newly crowned Sakura Kingdom. The kingdom was formerly known as Drum Kingdom, but was renamed to represent a new beginning. When the new bounties of the Straw Hats arrived, Dalton called Kureha down from the castle so he could show them to her. He was quite happy to see they were still okay. Dalton kept an eye out for the Straw Hats and was glad to learn of their continued adventures. Dalton was on good terms with Dr. Kureha. She approved of him as the king of Drum, though she treated him with disrespect in her usual manner. He displayed no grudge nor protest against her actions. In fact, he seemed to respect her for her role in the events of Wapol's ultimate defeat. The two remained on friendly terms. While Wapol disliked her for being a rogue doctor, Dalton was quite content with allowing her to do as she pleased. Dalton had a sound view of Chopper, whom he viewed with the highest respect for having saved the kingdom. Dalton saved Chopper's life by stopping an enraged Chopper from fighting a hopeless battle against Wapol and his army to avenge Hiriluk's death. He recognized what Chopper was trying to do and prevented the young reindeer from being killed. He kept an eye out for Dr. Kureha's son and was the first to tell her when Chopper gained a bounty. Dalton respected Princess Vivi, who amazed him when she was a child. It was because of her actions that first made Dalton criticize his own king. He compared her against Wapol and noted how, even at her young age, she was fully aware of her political status. Though the present Vivi did not reveal her identity to him on Drum Island during their meeting, Dalton was even more amazed by her actions with the Straw Hat Pirates. After realizing who she was following their departure, he wondered how someone of her status would ally herself with pirates. 2 years later, Dalton read about the Straw Hats in the newspaper while he inspected the Lapans employed as peacekeeping troops. The giant rabbits that once attacked travelers now served as guards protecting the kingdom. Dalton and Dr. Kureha later received news of the Straw Hats' accomplishment at Dressrosa. As the time for Lavelli approached, Dalton was shocked to hear Kureha was going to accompany him. The old doctor rarely left the island but decided to attend this important meeting. As news of Luffy's exploits at Toto Land spread across the world, Dalton read about it in a newspaper. Dalton and Kureha later arrived at Mary Geoise for the Lavelli. When Wapol was insulting Vivi, Dalton interrupted and drove him away through intimidation. He got reacquainted with Vivi and engaged in a friendly conversation with Rebecca concerning Luffy. Dalton was dismayed to see that Wapol had become king of another country and referred to it as despicable. When Wapol yelled at him by calling him a servant, Dalton firmly stated that they were now equals. His tone sounded slightly threatening as he transformed into his human beast form. Wapol backed off immediately. After Don Quixote Mjosgard stopped Charlos from enslaving Shirahoshi, Dalton stood beside the Neptune family as Mjosgard promised Neptune that he would protect Shirahoshi. Dalton later went to the conference room with the other kings and queens to begin the Lavelli. As he took his seat, Dalton glared at Wapol. As Vegapunk's worldwide broadcast began, Dalton was seen with Kureha and the rest of the Sakura Kingdom residents. As they listened to the broadcast, Dalton questioned how Vegapunk's statement about the sea level rising 200 meters was possible. The information shocked him, as it would affect islands across the world. Dalton considered what this would mean for his kingdom and its people. Dalton's journey from loyal guard to king showed his character and dedication. He served faithfully under a beloved king and watched that king's son destroy everything his father built. He endured years of serving a tyrant because of his loyalty to the previous king. He finally stood up against injustice when he witnessed Hiriluk's sacrifice. He was imprisoned and beaten for his defiance, but never regretted his choice. When the tyrant fled, Dalton stepped up to lead without any official authority. He worked tirelessly to maintain order and help his people survive. He welcomed strangers despite them being pirates because they needed help. He fought against his former king even when it meant taking fatal injuries. He was willing to die if it meant protecting his people from tyranny. The citizens recognized his sacrifice and dedication. They elected him as their king not because of birthright, but because he earned their trust and respect. As king, Dalton chose to live among the common people rather than in luxury. He worked alongside his citizens to rebuild their kingdom. He renamed the nation from Drum to Sakura to symbolize a fresh start. He kept the memory of those who sacrificed for the kingdom alive. He honored Hiriluk's dream by letting Kureha do as she pleased and supporting Chopper's journey. He maintained friendly relations with other kingdoms while standing firm against those who threatened innocent people. Dalton proved that true leadership came from service rather than power. He showed that courage meant standing up for what was right, even when facing overwhelming force. He demonstrated that strength was not just physical, but also moral. His transformation from guard to prisoner to interim leader to elected king inspired his people. He carried Drum Island through its darkest time and helped it bloom into Sakura Kingdom. The king of Sakura Kingdom stood as proof that good leaders were made through sacrifice and dedication rather than being born into power. His spade and his devil fruit powers were weapons, but his greatest strength was his unwavering commitment to his people's well-being. He faced tyrants, pirates, and natural disasters while never losing sight of what mattered most, protecting and serving those who trusted him. Dalton continued ruling with the same humility and courage that defined his entire life. Before we move on, make sure to subscribe if you're enjoying this breakdown. Stelly ruled the Goa Kingdom as its king and served as husband to Queen Sari Nantokanet. He stood about 5 feet, 11 inches tall as an adult. He wore a jacket with a sash on the back over a frilly shirt with frills on his shoulders and a high collar. A crown sat on his head. He maintained the same bowl-shaped haircut from his childhood. His appearance reflected the noble class he desperately clung to despite not being born into the highest ranks. Stelly was adopted by Sabo's family at 8 years old. He originally came from a separate noble family. His biological parents were unable to continue raising him. Outlook 3 and Did It adopted him because he showed lots of promise according to noble standards. At 8 years old, he was somewhat tall for his age. He was 2 years younger than Sabo, but about the same height. He wore a shirt with frills going down the middle, along with a bow tie and suspenders. He was often seen smiling, seemingly having dimples. He had a round head with a thin, flat nose. Like most nobles in the Goa Kingdom, Stelly was an arrogant person who did not care for anyone of lesser status than himself. He referred to them as trash without hesitation. This extended to calling Sabo stupid and trash due to what he heard from their parents. He said these insults casually, disregarding any manners or respect. As an adult, Stelly still acted rudely to people of lower status and behaved in spoiled ways. He complained about his lavish living quarters in Logtown, despite them being luxurious. He even treated the marine hero, Monkey D. Garp, rudely because Garp was a citizen of his kingdom. Stelly was aghast when Garp insulted him back. However, Stelly could put up a facade of good manners and devotion in front of his adoptive parents. He knew how to play the role of a respectful son when being watched. In front of their parents, Stelly treated Sabo respectfully. However, he displayed a mocking attitude towards Sabo in private. He confessed that he would have preferred the real son did not return. Stelly was easily frightened when Sabo interrogated him though. Despite their bad relationship, Stelly still referred to Sabo with an honorific as brother in his adult years. Sabo still mockingly looked down on him. Stelly was rather shocked when he read the newspaper alleging that Sabo infiltrated Mary Jiwais and assassinated Nefertari Cobra. This news stunned him because of the implications for his own position and safety. Although Stelly's teacher and adoptive parents stated he was extremely intelligent when he was a child, by their noble standards, he seemed extremely ignorant about much of the world. His views on other races were mainly based on racist stereotypes and rumors. He considered fishmen and merfolk to be no more than fish. He believed they had a contagious disease. He mistook Neptune as a giant rather than recognizing him as a merman. He believed giants ate humans and had saliva that could melt rocks. All of these beliefs showed his complete lack of real education about the world. He had a condescending attitude around the royalty of Fishman Island. He silently mocked their decision to explore the forests of Mary Geoise. He viewed it as ignorance of human amenities. This showed his narrow-minded view that his way of life was superior to all others. He could not understand why anyone would choose differently than him. Stelly was not very brave. He cried in fear when Sabo threatened him. He shunned any responsibilities when Sabo ran away again. As an adult, he shrunk back in fear upon seeing a flock of crows near his gondola. He worried they could send him plummeting down the red line. He also became panicked when being moved on Mary Geoise's travelator for the first time. He thought it was an earthquake. Most likely, due to his cowardly nature, he had a tendency to stutter a lot. Stelly was hungry for power and did not make it a secret. He explicitly asked Garp about ways to become a world noble. He showed great interest in sitting on the empty throne and ruling over the entire world. This desire existed despite the world government's creed that no one should sit on the throne. When he was told about the throne's significance and informed that no one was allowed to sit on it, Stelly still desired to do so. His ambition outweighed any respect for tradition or rules. Stelly also possessed a lewd side. He quickly fell in love upon seeing a photo of Nefertari Vivi, despite his wife standing by his side. He gazed lovingly at Vivi's photo when CP0 showed it to attendees after the Levely. This angered his wife, who stood right next to him. His lack of discretion and respect for his own wife showed his poor character. When Sabo was brought home by his father after running away to Grey Terminal, Stelly introduced himself. Later, he went into Sabo's room to insult him as he had heard their parents do. He revealed that Sabo was lucky to have been brought home before the nobles had Grey Terminal burned down in preparation for a world noble's arrival. This casual mention of mass murder showed how desensitized nobles were to suffering. Sabo grabbed Stelly and forced him to tell him about this plan. Stelly watched in shock as Sabo jumped out the window to try stopping the massacre. The next day, Stelly and Sabo met with their teacher before Sabo ran away again. Sometime before the present, Stelly married Princess Sarie Nantokanet. A few months ago, he became king of the Goa Kingdom. This happened after the suspicious deaths of the king and prince. The circumstances of these deaths were never explained, but the timing was convenient for Stelly. Whether he was involved in these deaths or simply benefited from them remained unclear. He took the throne and began ruling as king. As king of the Goa Kingdom, Stelly had authority over its subjects, as well as considerable wealth. He could attend the Levely, the World Conference of Kings and Queens. This gave him political power on the world stage. However, his authority came more from his position than from any real leadership ability or respect from his people. As the time for Levely approached, Stelly and his wife stayed at a hotel for royalty in Logetown. He commented to his queen that the hotel was nothing special. He complained it only offered a view of Goldie, Roger's gallows. This showed his spoiled nature, as he found fault with luxurious accommodations. Nothing satisfied him because he always wanted more. Upon arriving at the Red Port, Stelly went up to Monkey D. Garp. He tried to give him orders as his king. He was looking for ways to get in with the world nobles. Garp acted rudely towards him, much to Stelly's shock. He had never experienced someone completely disregarding his authority. The marine hero had no respect for Stelly's position and made that clear. Stelly then encountered the royals from Fishman Island. He was overwhelmed by ignorance and fear. His racist beliefs made him terrified of Neptune and his family, despite them being peaceful royalty. He and his wife later went up to Mary Geoise on the gondola. He saw a giant pop out of the cliff, but Hamburger believed he was hallucinating. Stelly grew fearful of some crows flying nearby. Sabo, disguised as a guard, sarcastically tried to assure him that it was safe. Sabo enjoyed mocking his adoptive brother. Steli and the Levely participants with him later reached the top of the Red Line. As they made their way to Pangaea Castle, Steli looked down on Neptune and his family. The Neptune family declined to use the travelator, preferring to see the scenery. Steli viewed this as ignorance of human amenities. He could not understand why anyone would choose walking over convenience. His narrow worldview prevented him from seeing the value in experiencing nature. Steli was later asked to make a pledge before the empty throne. Officials told him of the throne's significance. Even though he was informed that no one was allowed to sit on it, Steli desired to do so. The throne represented ultimate power over the entire world. Despite the world government's creed that the throne should remain empty as a symbol that no single king ruled above others, Steli wanted to break this sacred rule. His hunger for power overrode any sense of tradition or respect. Steli later went to the conference room with the other kings and queens to begin the Levely. He participated in the discussions between world leaders. However, his contributions likely focused on advancing his own interests rather than helping the world. His selfish nature meant he only cared about gaining more power and status for himself. After the Levely concluded, CP0 asked the attendees if they had seen Nefertari Vivi. Steli gazed lovingly at Vivi's photo. This angered his wife, who stood beside him. His lack of self-control and disrespect for his marriage showed his poor character. He could not even maintain proper behavior when being questioned by the world government's intelligence agency. While sailing back to the Goa Kingdom, Steli received a newspaper. He expressed shock to find out his adoptive brother Sabo had infiltrated Marigiwaz during the Levely. The newspaper alleged that Sabo assassinated Nefertari Cobra. This news stunned Steri. His connection to Sabo through adoption could cause problems for him. The world government might question his loyalty or investigate his family. His comfortable position as king suddenly seemed less secure. Steli represented everything wrong with the noble class. He was born into moderate nobility, but never satisfied with his station. He was adopted by a higher noble family and used this opportunity to climb higher. He married a princess and became king through suspicious circumstances. He treated anyone below his status with contempt while desperately trying to impress those above him. He was ignorant, cowardly, racist, disloyal, and power-hungry. His only skills were putting on false manners and surviving through opportunism. As king, Steli had authority but no real leadership qualities. He complained about luxury accommodations. He feared crows and moving walkways. He could not recognize basic facts about other races. He publicly lusted after other women while married. He tried ordering around a marine hero who ignored him completely. He wanted to sit on a throne, explicitly forbidden to all rulers. Every action showed his selfishness and incompetence. Steri's relationship with Sabo defined much of his character. He mocked his adoptive brother in private, while acting respectful in public. He revealed mass murder plans casually. He was easily intimidated when confronted, yet he still called Sabo brother years later. This complicated relationship showed that even Steli maintained some connection to family, despite his terrible personality. However, this connection seemed more about appearances than genuine affection. The king of the Goa Kingdom stood as a symbol of noble corruption and incompetence. He gained his position through adoption, marriage, and suspicious deaths rather than merit. He ruled with authority granted by birth rather than earned through leadership. He attended world conferences not to help his people, but to advance his own ambitions. His favorite food was high-quality champagne, perfectly representing his obsession with luxury and status. Steli proved that crowns and titles meant nothing without character and ability to match. Before we move on, make sure to subscribe if you're enjoying this breakdown. Moving on to Vinsmoke Judge. Vinsmoke Judge ruled the Jerma Kingdom as its king and served as the supreme commander of Jerma 66. He was the patriarch of the Vinsmoke family and Sanji's biological father. Known by the epithet Garuda, Judge was a large man standing nearly 9 feet tall, with long golden hair reaching his waist. He had a long, thin black mustache that spiked upwards, a thin beard, and a prominent cleft chin. He always wore a golden helmet, which was later destroyed during his clash with Big Mom. Much like his children, Judge had curved eyebrows, although they were relatively thicker. He usually wore his raid suit, composed of a gray robe with the number 66 on the bottom front, a large orange cape, a belt with the number 66 on the buckle, dark gloves, and boots with jet propellers. At the tea party, Judge changed into a dark gray suit with an orange, single-shoulder royal cloak. Judge was also a skilled scientist specialized in engineering and genetics. He was responsible for creating most of Germa 66's technological advancements, including modifying his own children into super soldiers. He was a former member of MADS, where he worked with Vegapunk and helped discover the lineage factor. After escaping Totoland, Judge and Caesar Clown created Neo-MADS. Judge exhibited typical royal hauteur, holding the firm belief that royalty was meant to be served, not to serve others. He disowned his third son Sanji after learning about Sanji's habit of cooking for others. He passed these attitudes down to his children. As part of this pride, Judge was preoccupied with recapturing the past glories of the Vinsmoke family. His lifelong ambition was to retake the entire North Blue as his ancestors once did. It was his desire for power and tremendous arrogance that nearly led to his family's deaths when Big Mom deceived him. He proved he would not hesitate to use any means to accomplish his goals, including genetically modifying his children into superhumans. He told his wife he was content with turning their sons into monsters as long as they won wars. When his wife Sora maintained her opposition, he forced her to undergo the surgery. He was furious at Sanji when he failed to exhibit any enhancements from the surgery. As Sanji prepared to leave the family, Judge gave him the condition to never associate himself with Judge or the Vinsmoke name again, since he considered Sanji his greatest failure. Judge loathed compassion and kindness as he believed it made people weak. He modified his sons to remove their emotions and ensure they would become strong. He expressed rage and despised Sanji heavily for showing such emotions. However, Judge was in disbelief when he saw Ichiji, Niji, and Yonji expressing a lack of care at their imminent demise after they fell into Big Mom's trap. Even after witnessing the flaw in their design and seeing that Sanji's emotions had saved the family, Judge still considered such emotions useless. Judge exhibited great respect for strength and the privileges that came with its exercise. He believed that men should speak with physical force alone. He flaunted his own power by hanging an image of himself victorious in the conquest of 4 nations inside his castle. This view colored his attitude towards his children, as he only valued them when they proved such strength. He refused to intervene as his other sons viciously bullied Sanji when they were all children. By contrast, he doted on all his other children, whose superhuman physical strength became obvious even as children. Judge was extremely hypocritical. While he had emotions himself, he despised Sanji for his kindness. While he refused to privately acknowledge Sanji as a son, he openly acknowledged him in front of guests and allies to make himself look like a benevolent father. When his life was at stake, he acted extremely cowardly, begging someone to save him while crying. Judge believed everyone should have honor, but he had no qualms using underhanded tactics such as blackmailing Sanji into an arranged marriage. While he claimed he was not inhuman enough to kill his own son, he had no problem allowing others or Sanji himself to do it for him. Judge proved capable of immense cruelty. He was not simply content with demoralizing Sanji in front of his siblings, but further punished him by putting a metal mask over his face and locking him in a dark cell within the castle. After 13 years apart, his only reason for seeking Sanji out was to use him as a political pawn. He threatened the life of Zeph and placed exploding wrist cuffs on Sanji's hands to ensure cooperation with the wedding. While Judge believed the strong had the right to oppress the weak, he hypocritically showed great fear when subjected to such treatment himself. When the Charlotte family revealed Big Mom's plan to massacre his family and rendered them powerless with binding candy, Judge became horrified and sank into despair. He wept in the face of imminent doom and lamented that his lifelong ambition of taking back North Blue would be beyond his reach. While crying, Judge was mocked by Ichiji. The child he ensured would be strong and emotionless. He saw Niji and Yonji simply accepting death without resistance. Judge viewed Sanji as an utter waste of space and the single blemish in his life. Unlike his siblings, whose genetic modifications gave them superhuman strength, Sanji's strength remained that of a normal human throughout childhood due to Sora's intake of a counter drug. Judge tried to encourage Sanji by sternly scolding him that he must train harder than his siblings, but showed no improvement. After Sora's death, Judge blamed Sanji and saw him as a constant reminder of his late wife's personality. Judge allowed his other sons to bully Sanji, even stating he was not obligated to help the pleading Sanji. This led the pitiless father to have Sanji locked in a dungeon for over 6 months. Despite his extreme scorn, Judge allowed Sanji to be fed and admitted he could never bring himself to dispose of Sanji himself. When Sanji escaped and announced his intentions to leave the Germa kingdom, Judge was pleased. He allowed Sanji to go on the condition that he never tell anyone about their relationship, which left his son in tears. Judge, however, soon decided to bring him back and pursued him constantly, using the world government and marines to locate him and manipulating the bounty system to ensure his safe return. This was all done merely to further his ambition to reconquer North Blue. To seal an alliance with Big Mom which would give him the forces necessary, he forced Sanji to marry one of Big Mom's daughters. During their reunion, they expressed mutual dislike with Sanji, refusing to acknowledge him as his father, and Judge telling Sanji he never considered Sanji a true son. Judge quelled Sanji's rebellious behavior by threatening the life of Zeph. On the night before the wedding, Judge and his sons shared a toast to Sanji, albeit in a patronizing way, for actually being useful to them. Despite their mutual dislike, Sanji confessed to Luffy that he did not have in him to leave his father to die at Big Mom's hand. This was ironic compared to Sanji's brothers, whom Judge had always favored. It was Sanji's possession of emotions that drove him to save his father and siblings. After being held at gunpoint by the Big Mom pirates, Judge was utterly shocked when Sanji freed him and his other children. After entering Bege's fortress, he questioned Sanji on why he rescued them despite how they treated him. Sanji answered by saying he did not want to disappoint his real father by stooping so low as to allow his biological family to die. Sanji then angrily grabbed Judge, stating he was not his father anymore, and demanded him to never show his face again. Recognizing the pain he put Sanji through and the debt he owed him, Judge solemnly agreed to never interfere with Sanji's life ever again nor go near the East Blue again. He offered to distract Big Mom to give the Alliance an opening to escape. Judge and his forces later came to Sanji's aid at Cacao Island. Judge shared a glare with Sanji while asking Luffy why he risked his life for Sanji's sake. Judge still referred to Sanji as Germa's failure and stated all his faults to the retrieval team. As Supreme Commander of the infamous Germa 66, Judge had tremendous physical strength and extraordinary fighting skills. He fought evenly with Sanji, despite his large physique. Judge had extremely sharp reflexes, able to keep up with Sanji's agility. He had tremendous durability, as he was able to withstand Sanji's extremely powerful kicks. Despite his physical prowess, Judge still reverted to using underhanded tactics to overpower his son. In spite of his skills, he was no match for Big Mom, who defeated him easily. Vinsmoke Judge was born in the North Blue, within the Germa Kingdom. At least 36 years ago, Judge worked alongside Vegapunk as part of MADS, which discovered the lineage factor. When the world government deemed this research a threat, Vegapunk was arrested. Judge managed to escape and continued the research in the Germa Kingdom. At some point, he became the current patriarch of the Vinsmoke family and king of Germa. Judge led Germa 66 inches, the conquest of 4 nations, in which he vanquished 4 kings in the North Blue. Before the birth of his children, Judge married Sora, crowning her queen consort. She gave birth to their first child, Reiju, before conceiving fraternal quadruplet sons. Judge argued with his wife about giving them modifications. Judge was only concerned about giving his sons power, even if it meant making them emotionless, and forced his wife to undergo surgery against her wishes. After his son's birth, Judge was pleased when Ichiji, Niji, and Yonji displayed their enhancements, but was puzzled by Sanji's peculiar behavior. When his 5 children were very young, Judge revealed his ambition for them to lead Germa 66 into battle, and began training them. While Sanji's siblings excelled, Sanji continually lagged behind, which greatly disappointed Judge. One day, Judge caught Sanji cooking and warned him to cease his habits and train harder. He threw the food out of the palace window as he told Sanji to never make another meal again, causing Sanji to cry. Eventually, Judge determined that Sanji would never develop the enhanced abilities of his siblings and decided to erase his existence by putting an iron mask on him and locking him in a dungeon. He staged a state wake to mourn Sanji's passing. After the Germa kingdom crossed the red line into the East Blue, Judge ran into Sanji after he escaped his cell. Sanji declared he wanted to leave the kingdom, something Judge was actually pleased to hear. He allowed Sanji to go on the condition that he never tell anyone about their relationship. When he wanted to form an alliance with Emperor Big Mom, Judge did not want to marry off any of his precious children into her family. He then remembered Sanji and decided to bring him back. When Sanji's wanted poster was updated, Judge increased his bounty and changed the condition from dead or alive to only alive. After the Germa kingdom converged at Whole Cake Island, Judge reunited with Sanji. Judge and Sanji began fighting, with Judge very surprised at Sanji's strength and ability to use haki. Judge used his advanced technology and spear to gradually overpower Sanji. He had his men form a wall between them and stabbed through his men with his spear, blowing away Sanji with electrical energy. Judge later told Sanji he never saw him as a son and only as means to end. He had Reiju put exploding wristlets on him to keep him from escaping the wedding. The next day, Judge was present to witness the arrival of his 2 oldest sons, expressing joy at their return. During breakfast, Judge warned his children the world government would likely revoke their right to attend Leveille. However, Judge was indifferent, as the alliance would bring Germa 66 to the brink of achieving its ambitions. Judge responded to Sanji defending Cosette by showing Sanji a photograph of Zeph, threatening to have him killed if Sanji did not cooperate. After arriving at Big Mom's castle, Judge and his family had a meal with Big Mom and Pudding. Judge concurred with Big Mom's excitement about their alliance. Judge told his sons that Pudding would live with them on Germa Kingdom after the wedding, so they could use her as leverage against Big Mom. On the day of the wedding, Judge accompanied his children to the venue. After the wedding began, Judge partook in the festivities seated at the main table. However, Charlotte Perospero tied the Vinsmokes down with candy, and the Charlotte family held them at gunpoint. Judge responded with shock at the betrayal and screamed at Big Mom to explain herself. He broke down in tears after explaining his plans were dedicated to revenge on the countries of North Blue. After Katakuri told Perospero to shoot the Vinsmoke family, Judge angrily remarked that if they had their raid suits, the Big Mom pirates would not have their way with them. To his surprise, Sanji then arrived and freed him. Judge was given back his raid suit and earplugs by the Straw Hats. Judge and his family took shelter inside Bege's fortress. Judge questioned Sanji on why he rescued them after how they treated him. Sanji responded by saying his real father would be disappointed if he left his blood relatives to die. Sanji then grabbed Judge angrily, stating the Vinsmoke Sanji that fled the Germa kingdom died. He officially disowned Judge, telling him to never show his face again. Judge solemnly promised not to interfere with Sanji's life, nor go near the East Blue again. The Vinsmoke family decided to fight Big Mom to give the Alliance an opening to escape. After Luffy tried attacking Big Mom, Judge charged at Big Mom while voicing his failure and condemning Big Mom for lying to him. Big Mom shattered Judge's spear and struck him down, with Zeus's lightning breaking off his helmet. Before Big Mom could execute Judge and his family, the Tama Tobacco exploded, causing the castle to collapse. Niji and Yonji carried the unconscious Judge to safety. Hours later, a bandaged Judge and his forces arrived at Cacao Island to aid the Straw Hats. Judge helped by engaging Smoothie's fleet. As the Sunny passed, Judge asked Luffy why he risked his life for Sanji's sake. Luffy did not answer, and instead thanked him much to Judge's annoyance. Judge and Germa 66 later escaped Big Mom's territory. However, Niji and Yonji had been captured, so Reiju and Ichiji went to retrieve them. When the four siblings returned, they brought Caesar Clown, which sparked an argument between the two scientists. Both realized their real problem was Vegapunk, at which point they decided to cooperate and formed NEO Mads. While watching Vegapunk's worldwide broadcast, Judge and Caesar were shocked and frustrated to learn that Vegapunk was already dead. The king of the Germa kingdom stood as a symbol of ambition corrupted by cruelty. He gained his position through birthright and used science to pursue conquest. He ruled with authority but destroyed his own family through his obsession with power. He modified his children into weapons while despising the one who remained human. His favorite food was tomato pasta, with lobster perfectly representing his refined tastes, masking his brutal nature. Judge proved that scientific genius and military might meant nothing without compassion and humanity. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.